All right. Hello, everyone. I say hello, everyone. How y'all doing?
Hey.
Hey. Good. There we go.
Hello.
A little worried there for a second, but I think we're all good.
Come
Let me
on.
just shift this around just slightly. Here we go, so things aren't overlapping properly. I think we're good. Welcome to Saturday night. It's time to talk anime. Because we all like anime. We all are kind of anime fans here and there.
I was forced into it by a small group of pigeons at a park one night. It's very odd. It's a very odd scene.
Someday I'll tell you the story about how Craig Ferguson was once attacked by ducks in a park. Oh, well, he was high on LSD with the Doctor Who.
Wow.
Yeah, that's a story. Anyway,
Love that
There's a
show.
lot to unpack there.
there is. This week was our first week with my new class of students at work, and we always do an assessment where we basically have them take a quiz about. I teach software development, so we basically have them take a quiz about software development, so we know how much they know. And I always get to do the time announcements. 15 minutes to go, 10 minutes to go, 5 minutes to go. And so I decided, and this has become a routine, is that I say, this is doom doom doom. This is a special announcement. There are 15 minutes remaining. Thank you. And then I say the same thing in Japanese, which I have to look up, obviously. And it's just enough to get people go, okay, what? What did he just say? Wait, what?
See what they're
And
bringing
then-
in.
Did I suddenly go crazy?
Exactly. And then, of course, that led into so Brent, why do you know Japanese? Well, I know anime. All right, floodgates open. What do you watch? All that kind of stuff. All right, okay, well, maybe let's not discuss this in the middle of a quiz, but we can talk about it later.
So do I need to adjust my camera, or am I going to or can I just do kind of the sink down and just have my eyes above the thing here?
Okay.
I thought for a split second, Brent, you were going to say that you assess these people and you sit at a desk and you have a bell and you go ding, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Is it
I
safe?
wish.
Oh, that would be fun.
That
Is
was
it
very
safe?
fun. Yeah. I know I could get some of my coworkers in to do the band in the corner. But oh well.
That'd be awesome.
All right. So tonight we're here to talk about Tenchi Forever. It has been my dream for years. To do
Forever?
a video, pretty much forever, to analyze this film, because this is a film that has so little exposure. Because it is the third Tenchi film, really only people who've ever seen Tenchi get anywhere near this film, and I think it deserves more exposure. Because this is a really interesting film. Again, like I said, it's the third Tenchi Muyo franchise film. It was called Tenchi Muyo in Love 2. It's complicated. We've seen the early Tenchi, some of the early Tenchi stuff. JJ, I know you've seen the original OVA, right? As
Yes.
well as Tenchi in Love, right? And then OVA 4 for some reason.
I see things sometimes out of context and out of order, which leads me to kind of be a little. I am truly indeed lost in the Tenchi universe, the
absolutely.
Tenchi verse.
Yes, and that is totally understandable. Indeed. Speaking of, and I should point this out, the Tenchi TV show is called Tenchi Universe. Tenchi Forever is in the Tenchi Universe timeline. It gets really confusing talking about Tenchi. You talk about the Tenchi Universe. Folks assume you're talking about all of Tenchi. No, we're talking about the...
Yeah.
Steve, I know you've seen a good swath of Tenchi as well.
Yes, it's good God. I started with Adult Swim. I actually did not intend to watch it. I had no interest in it, and then I finally watched it on television and on of course Adult Swim, and
Of course.
got hooked onto it, and then of course the original Tenchi Muyo, and then the Tenchi Universe one, the 42 episode one came on, or is it 42 or 26? I always forget.
It's I think it's 26, but I'm not sure.
26. And
I
then
think that
of
was
course,
the one I watched, the 26
yeah.
one.
And then there was the Tenchi in Tokyo, which has one of my favorite episodes where his father's running around with the suction cup arrow going, love, 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 and then throwing the arrow. And
It's a
of
I've
course-
not seen that one yet.
It's a weird show.
and then at a certain, then I think I finished War and Gemini. I'm not sure because again I'm confused. And then was it Tenchi
GXP? Mm-hmm.
GXP, that's right. And I started that one, and then that's where I just kind of went, ow, ow.
Isn't GXP the stuff you put in people's drinks?
Oh, no. Yeah, I think it's a different thing. Yeah, no.
Okay.
Yeah.
Tenchi GXP, it'll get you crazy.
I mean, it will, but for other reasons.
Yeah, but deeply personal psychological reasons, not chemical per se.
Yeah. No, GXP. Well, okay.
Moving on.
All day.
Moving right along.
It is a complicated thing. So I want to start by talking about what this movie is not, because rewatching it, I really realized how much like there is no action in this movie at all. No. There are like tense scenes of brief chase scenes, but that's it. There's some comedy, but it's very much occasional, sort of goofy, interstitial, and it very much feels like it's there kind of to relieve tension.
Right.
But it's really this kind of it's a supernatural mystery, much like Grave of the Fireflies. See, Tenchi is like Grave of the Fireflies. It's not. But yeah, no, it's and so there's.
I'll accept that because I respect you.
Yeah, no, it's not. But
it's not. No.
It's amazing though how. It's also not expensive. This movie does not have a high animation budget.
But it's not trash.
On the flower.
It's still good.
It's still good, but they spent it all on the flower when they did a quick look. That was where the budget went.
Yep. It's also interesting to see how this movie frames things, like how it shows you things and how it reveals things to you over time. But yeah, so it's and it starts with and again I think I love looking at movies for what they do, because Tenchi Muyo, the first harem franchise, we all kind of know what we're going into, and we start with this like 30-second shot of a flower opening.
Yep.
We are very clearly in like art house film territory here, folks. This is very much not doing the kinds of things you kind of expect from a Tenchi story.
Which I was trying to figure it out when I saw that. I'm like, I'm so not in the Tenchi universe. This has got to be significant. I don't know what it means, but it's got to be Tenchi important.
Exactly. Which then fades into this gorgeous tree, and then a hand, and then the shot between these two characters. Again, I love how it kind of reveals things, because it's one of those things where if you don't know what the movie is coming in, and assuming you know some Tenchi, you see this character and you're like, that's young Yosho. That's Tenchi's grandfather, and he's young, I think. And then like the second line, he says Yosho. She's like, yeah, but okay. Alrighty, we're doing this. We're looking into Tenchi's grandfather's history.
Flashback time.
Flashback time, exactly. And this tragic love. And Captain Laser Eyes, it's a tragic romance movie, very much so, in many ways. Because we get this very sad scene, woman sick in bed. Very clear this is not comedy material here. With this achingly gorgeous music playing. Oh, the guitars. And then we move just into straight Tenchi nonsense.
Yeah.
And it's Aika and Ryoko, arguing and all that stuff. And we get just all the classic stuff. And it's interesting what this movie is doing, of very much setting up classic Tenchi. Ryoko and Aika arguing. Sure, we all know that. And then it very quickly escalates into this idea of, no, like, this is what we're talking about, right? Like, this is very much the core of this movie, is the fact that these characters are constantly fighting, and is this really what Tenchi wants? Is this what they want?
Well, if Tenchi would make a decision,
right?
Yes.
Then it would work out, right?
And this is the thing: is that Tenchi was almost a decade old at this point, and it had become kind of this running gag that Tenchi would never make a decision. And again, like, what is it? We're 3 minutes in, and the girls are like, make a decision, right? And it's very remarkable, really.
Because I mean, think all of us who have ever watched a harem.
Yeah.
Typically, it doesn't ever result in any like concrete decisions. You get to the end, and it's like, oh, look over there, and then you're like, I'd be happy. Choose all of them. Yeah. That's perfectly viable. To love Rue. You've got characters that are in there that are like, if you're going to be the next, king of the universe, you have the ability to have everybody.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. It's like I would keep waiting for that in Tenchi, where it's like, Tenchi, you're the inheritor of the House of Jirai. You can have like 20 wives. Right. Go ahead. Mm-hmm. Like, just decide.
And actually, like the Tenchi universe does make a point that, like, I think Yosho. Oh no, in I think the OVA universe, Yosho has 2 wives, or the Emperor has 2 wives.
The Emperor has 2 wives, and Sasami's mother is a concubine.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think.
I think that's what it is.
Yeah. So totally a deal.
And the Crabbit was a drunken one-night thing that never nobody wants to talk about.
Exactly. No. But yes, and suddenly we get this really interesting moment again where Tenchi decides to run off from responsibility in a way. And it should be pointed out, one of the interesting things about Tenchi Muyo is that a lot of other harem anime protagonists are like completely spineless. Tenchi is unusual in that he absolutely sticks up for himself and others. He just refuses to make a decision about this. Yeah. Because he's not sure, and he's like 15, right? Like, understandable. But he wanders off into the forest, and we get these. Can we talk about like how gorgeous Tenchi's backgrounds are for a second? Like, oh my gosh.
Yeah. I was thinking about that today as I was driving home in the ice.
Yeah.
This is why we don't drive in ice,
well, some of us, I have to work and I have to, pay for things, and so that kind of works. So as I was driving, after I spent 20 minutes scraping the ice off of my car, and then getting in said car and driving said car on 97, and having the guys in the pickup truck with drunk cutting me off, and me just in my little Hyundai POS, like, I want to be at Tenchi's Shinto Shrine, please. I would much rather be there than here.
Which, by the way, is a real thing.
Tenchi Shrine?
Yeah, that is based on an actual real place you can go and visit in Japan, which is pretty cool.
Now, have they given in, like Osai and had the the cardboard cutouts and stuff of Tenchi all over the place?
Yeah. I'm sure not recently. It's been a while, but
probably not.
But yeah, and in fact, and not to get too deep, a lot of the stuff in Tenchi is based on real places in the area. So there's a Mihoshi Observatory near there, and there are other little things like that. Like, I didn't know that. Cliff or something like that. It's neat when Tenchi Muyo came out.
Mihoshi's cliff.
Well, yeah.
Don't accidentally fall.
Washu's quick. Yeah.
Washu's Supercomputer Center.
Yeah, exactly. So then he goes in, and again, if you've seen this movie before, you know exactly what's happening here. But it is very mysterious that there's just this flowering camellia tree.
Yeah. And by the way, I'm sorry, but the English voice cast really, I know they, were doing their thing, but Aika is just, I was like nails on a blackboard. I'm like,
oh, I love Aika.
So Ryoko, I didn't mind, but Aika, I couldn't get behind that voice.
So
Go ahead, Brent.
If you go back and watch the OVA, it's actually really interesting because when she starts playing herself, when she starts, she is much more royal princess in the first episode or two. And the voice actors talked about how she didn't realize that the character was comedic, and so she just played her straight. But then as the story went on, she realized, oh, this character is a foil. Like, she's ridiculous. And so she kind of upped it over time. But yeah.
And for those of us who saw it first with the voice cast, this is what we hear. Right. And I agree with you, but with the Japanese version, it's just like, I'm sorry, the voice actor who does Tenchi, the English, I'm blanking on his name, but when I was watching the Japanese dub of this, and it's just like, it's just not the same.
Yeah.
And I just had to click over to the English dub. That's the voice I have to hear.
Well, I'd like to find the Japanese version and watch that, and then see what the comparison is, just for curiosity's sake.
I tried the original Tenchi OVA with the Japanese dub, and just it's. I'm sure it's amazing. I just can't do it.
Just didn't work.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Yeah, and so then, and again, we get this love what it does, where instead of, you only have so much time, and so what they do in the story is he disappears, and then we jump 6 months later.
Yeah.
After all the worrying, after the aftermath, all that kind of stuff, we just jump. Because let's be honest, like that's where the story really starts, if you will. And so you get all these characters going about their business, trying to find Tenchi, and it's fascinating contrasting the mood. Everyone's serious. Everyone's suddenly just kind of trying to do their thing, except Mahoshi, who's a dingbat.
But even her piece of this is really very subdued by comparison. It's like,
when she messes up, it is Mahoshi messing up. It's not, oh my gosh, we got to change everything.
Right.
Sasami shows up on planet Jirai to like figure out what happens, which again kind of raises the stakes of, oh, this is something that like everybody knows about now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then you get one of my favorite moments in the entire movie, and it's almost a throwaway moment, which is Ryoko and Ayaka on the train, where they're just traveling around, and Ryoko's just sitting there worried, and Ayaka is just sitting there worried, and they're together, and they're not arguing, and they're there to do the thing.
Yeah.
They didn't blow up the train this time like they did in the other movie.
And you have to wonder if that isn't a little bit of nod as well, kind of,
Right.
Absolutely. And again, you cut to them kind of looking up records, all this kind of stuff, and they're just chatting. They're just talking. They're just, united in this effort. Whereupon you get, I think this is fan service. I got to admit, Tenchi characters in Family Mart outfits.
Yeah.
Not fan service in the ecchi sense, but just like, ooh, more outfits with little bow ties. And again, we get to them just hanging out. They have a room together. Ayaka and Ryoko are living together, and whatever.
Yeah, I was trying to figure out. I'm like, you got, instead of using the house as the base from which you sort of cast out and find out what's going on. It's like those two set out together.
Yeah.
And are literally working their way through the investigation, so that what they're doing for a job is not anything to do with any. It's like they're not undercover. They're not doing something to like sort of hide. No, it's literally making money because they need to be in that place to track things down.
Well, and it's because they're hoping they're going to overhear somebody from somebody saying something, and a restaurant is the best place to be for that. But yeah.
But I mean, easily you could have gone, okay, we're going to go to Sendai, and we're gonna walk all around the town. We're talking to all these people, and then go back. It's like, no, they go out. They're away from everybody.
And this is the thing: is that the implication is that's what they've been doing, right? They've been hopping from place to place to place trying to find Tenchi, and so it could be they're going to be here for the next month, and then if they don't find anything, they go back, and they'll try something else. It's really interesting seeing this implied journey they've been on. Yeah. Totally. And the fact that it's just kind of, in so many other Tenchi stories, and again, it's interesting kind of pulling Tenchi out of it, no need for Tenchi, ha ha ha, is that, they're lost, right? They have nothing to go on. Tenchi's just gone, and they're just running around trying to find him. And it is just really kind of heartbreaking in a lot of ways. And so then we finally get Tenchi waking up. And again, just how this movie presents information. It's like waking up from a dream. He's just waking up kind of groggy, looking around, looking at where he is. And because it's the audience doing the same thing as well. and he's getting exposed to this new environment. You're wondering what the heck is going on.
I did notice his futon cover reminded me of Lum's.
Oh, little tiger stripe, yeah.
I'm just kind of looking at it. I'm like, is this an Urusei kind of thing going on, or what's going on with that?
Funny.
So,
yeah, I don't could well be. And then just and again, it should be pointed out, everything in this scene is from Tenchi's perspective, right? Like the camera angle is always facing up, and you get this character, and she kisses him, and he goes, "Oh yeah, I remember you now." And you're like, and every Tenchi fan in the audience is going, "How dare you!" Right? You can't take Tenchi away like that.
Okay, but you know what? I had every single time I've seen this movie, I've had the same response to that, which was, "Okay, finally, finally."
Yeah.
Just okay,
Yeah.
okay, yeah, okay. He just finally
And
okay, here we go. Okay, finally, he's chosen somebody.
Absolutely.
Somebody's chosen, and there we go, and we're good. And and I'm like, going, okay,
movie over. No.
Movie over. And then the thought comes to, okay, when Ryoko finds her, she's going to eviscerate her. So that's
right.
how the movie's going to go. It's going to be a bloodfest. No, but at that point, you just kind of, first of all, the first shock you get is Tenchi himself. When you see Tenchi himself. And that's where you don't recognize Tenchi at first. And you see his face, but you don't recognize his face. The hair is long.
Yeah, the hair is the kicker, really.
Yeah, and you're like, and you, if you've seen the other movie, the other Tenchi Moyo in Love movie, you go, oh God, are we back in 1970s?
Right.
And it's not really. It's just whatever this temporal place is, and he wakes up and he sees her, and then you finally realize that it is Tenchi, and that he has changed drastically. He's committed to a girl, and it doesn't appear to be any. And he's living with her. That's the other part.
Yep.
It's in a room, and she's playing the wife. We don't know that they're married or anything, but she's playing the wife role, and she's cooking him breakfast. And then she goes, "Well, you're going to be late for whatever." And you're just like, have this whole domestic scene that happens, and you're just like, you're so used to Ryoko phasing through the wall, smacking up Ayeka upside the head, the cabinet going meow meow, the Sami being cute, and Yosho going Tenchi, and the father trying to get it all on a Pioneer camera, and it's just, that's what you expect, but you don't get any of that, and the fact that it's just so domestic is so jarring. You're just like, fine, I'm gonna watch the rest of this movie because I gotta figure out what the hell's going on here.
Absolutely. And that's
honestly, when she's chopping things up for not a split second, for a few moments there before the scene progressed, I'm like, this isn't his mom. Who the hell's this? That's, It's like because not to be mean or anything, but she's just she's very normally dressed.
Right.
So I'm looking at this and I'm like, so is this somebody who is like some kind of older relative of his? How is this?
Or did he knock his head? Did
on?
somebody pick him up and take him?
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And it's like, so I just and then obviously as things progressed, I'm like, okay, so this is obviously a more intimate situation, but still, who the hell is this lady?
Yeah. Well, and this is something that I didn't pick up on until this time around. This is the 80s. This timeline is in. You see that TV, right?
Yeah.
That is not a 1999 television. Because Haruna came to Earth, a long time ago.
In the 80s.
But like she isn't thinking in this way. And it is a very nostalgic kind of an environment. And I think you're absolutely right, Steve. Is that I think one of the fascinating things about this movie is that Tenchi's happy. Tenchi's perfectly content with this. Like this is not like, oh my gosh, he's in some hellscape. Like, this is a really good place for him to be, and it is very nice. Like, oh gosh, I don't have to deal with screaming Harridans all the time.
Right. There's no fighting. There's no like anything more of a hustle than you're gonna be late for class.
Yep.
Better get going. And you're doing the thing you want to do with your life. You're not being forced to be something more than what you expected. You're making a career path choice of your own. So yeah, I can see where Tenchi would be really into that.
Totally. Anyone. And so you have this lovely little domestic scene. And again, I love the fact that, again, for the fans watching, you're thinking, what is she doing? Like, how did she do that? And the movie is very careful to show none of Haruna's negative side here. She's just in the pattern doing this thing.
You like her because there's no evil.
Right. Mm-hmm.
As she's chopping the scallions, which, by the way, in terms of sound editing, that was amazing. That sound of just chopping up the thing, and it just again, domestic, not anything evil.
Yep.
But it's not like you got Higurushi cry, of just like her. Tenchi, you're gonna be late for school.
You're exactly.
No craziness or anything going on. There's no aura of doom coming about. It's just here's this woman who's just attractive, nice, and clearly good.
And she's not overbearing.
Right?
No.
You know what I mean? So despite the sort of picking the rice off and the kiss, she's not like, oh, Tenchi, all over him. That would give you sort of a negative reaction to her.
She's the Yamato Nadeshiko.
Right. I mean, she's there, so it's like you can adjust to her being there because she's not overly aggressive in anything that she's actually doing.
And again, it's one of the smart things in this weird science fantasy, franchise, presenting this kind of villain who has nothing villainous about her, no hints. She's just this nice woman, doing the thing. And so we get more of the characters trying to find Tenchi. And I speaking of sound, one of the things I love about this movie is how they have this chase music that they play whenever they see Tenchi. It kicks in, they run after Tenchi, and then every single time when Tenchi disappears, it just cuts. Because it is this very jarring thing that Tenchi's there and then he isn't. And presenting that, again, that kind of increasing frustration of none of this makes sense. There's no, teleportation particles flying anywhere. Yeah. There's no weird science fantasy. It is just, he's there, then he isn't there. What the heck is going on?
Yeah, they get the beepy alarm, and it's like, you would think if you could track him like that, that you'd be on him split second. You'd just be like, oh, he's right around the corner. And it's like, nope, you get the dramatic chase scene, and the thing just stops. The beepy thing stops. Everything just stops. Okay.
I also love how Ryoko does not hesitate to fly or teleport. Normally when she's in public, she's a little more careful about that. She's like, nope, I gotta find him. I don't care who sees me. And then he's just gone, and it just develops this mystery.
I really like Ryoko.
Yeah, me too. Well, you're in luck
really
watching this movie.
Yeah,
we'll get to that in a minute. And then you get, and again, this is one of the things I love about this movie is the craft behind it. Is this sketch of Haruna? It is hard in animation to draw sketches and make them look like sketches in animation, especially when somebody is flipping something around in hand-drawn animation and getting all the angles on that right, and you never really realize it. It works flawlessly. And I also love the subtle, not so subtle, meta-ness of this, that, all of Tenchi is drawn. So he's kind of recreating the characters in this weird way in the drawing.
Tenchi's drawing himself into existence.
Exactly. Yeah.
Oh,
it's wow.
Boom.
Yeah. And then we get some moments, and I'm gonna have to skip ahead here in a little bit, because Haruna gets down on the floor, and I think we've all been trained enough to see these things and go, she's being a little coquettish here. Okay. Exactly. And she
Tenchi.
Yes, exactly. And he looks over at her, and then, they make it very clear that what happens next is very much what husbands and wives do.
Look at her and go, holy eyebrows.
Exactly.
No.
Yes. They're whispering secrets. That was Mr. Science Theater, by the way. Whenever something would happen, the bots would go, what are they doing, Joel? They're whispering secrets. Oh, okay.
Okay.
Nice.
Anyway.
How family friendly.
After dark.
Yeah, exactly.
It's not 10 o'clock yet.
They have this this long, and fascinatingly drawn sequence with these sort of silhouettes, just interacting, and this idea of, you're gonna be with me always, right?
Yeah.
Which is very much what lovers say, but also has deeper meaning here.
Well, it's also nice to see that Tenchi he's actively in.
Yeah. Yep.
It's going to sound worse than what I mean.
Well,
he's actively engaged with someone.
Yes. Absolutely.
He is not actively engaged in running the hell away from Aika and from Ryoko.
Yeah.
He's actively engaged with and focused on a person, single person.
Yeah.
And it's like, this is very unlike Tenchi.
Well, my
In this
reaction
respect.
again. My reaction to it was, basically, again, hey, this is new and different. But when the scene came on, I'm like, oh, they're okay. Yes, here we go. And then you're like, and they are actually nothing's interrupting them, nothing's pulling away, and goal, and you're just like happy for him because. Oh, for the love of God, finally,
Yeah. They're not about to kiss and then, oh no, something happens.
Oh, something happens, right.
And the other key thing is, I think, without Ryoko and Aika there, I think if Tenchi had a girlfriend, this is what he'd be like with her, right? If he didn't have distractions, he's totally capable of this. Like, there's nothing strange about him being, very romantic and all that kind of stuff with a girl. He's a little shy, but, this is very much in nature of Tenchi the character, not Tenchi the person in the situation that he's in.
Right.
Not the house full of loons in which he lives.
Exactly. And so you get just more of that. And then you get this scene, which, again, I didn't recognize first time watching this movie. We then cut back to that overgrown trail. I love that it's now overgrown going into the woods, because they mentioned in the first, no, we got to keep this clean.
Yeah. And
then we see all of these dying, all the leaves and all the trees, falling down, but we see the camellia is in full bloom.
So, yeah.
It's all that Jirai energy just coursing through it.
Yep.
See, and this is the part where I just kind of look at Yosho and I go, dude, you didn't figure this out until now. I mean, I mean. Okay, we know that he went in the direction of the woods, right?
Right.
We know that Yosho has that. Well, we don't know actually until he explains it to Washu, to little Washu. Oh yeah, I actually had somebody and she died, and so her body's right there, and and it's underneath this tree. But I personally would have thought that if you saw the camellia blooms and that kind of just went I would be like. Because he's usually so astute about everything else.
This is the thing, is I think he does know, because we see his shocked reaction to that when he goes, "Oh crap!" But the thing is, later on, like, he knows and he tells Washu, and she goes, "No, Tenchi's in danger." He goes, "What, really? Okay, we need to do something." I think he's like, I screwed up in the past. She's taken Tenchi temporarily, and what's going to happen here is that, like, she needs time with him. Once that's happened, she'll release Tenchi back, and then she can move on. And that this is kind of my penance that, I can't provide this to her. Maybe she can get it through Tenchi, but that, Tenchi's not going to be harmed through this. She's just going to have,
right,
some experiences.
And there's no problem in the Tenchi verse of Tenchi's grandfather saying, "My dead first girlfriend wants to spend time with my grandson, who she's never met."
Means.
So instead of inviting me back into the crazy tree of happiness, she's like, after my grandson, not even my son. I'm just like,
I want that to be the subtitle for this movie. Crazy Tree of Happiness.
I mean, that's what I was, kind of confused at. I'm like, you would think that she, having seen through the end of the film, I know where this goes. But at that juncture, it's kind of like, I really wanted him to approach the tree, him to have sort of recognition, and then her to appear to him and be like, because of what we missed out, I'm holding on to Tenchi. You need to let go of the world and come to me. You know what I mean? Something where it'd be like a little more villainy, like I've taken your kid or your grandkid, and now you have to do this. And that something would develop from that. And it's like, and it doesn't.
And it doesn't.
And it's one of the fascinating things about this movie is that, Haruna is a very tragic villain, right? Like, she isn't trying to hurt anybody. She sees Tenchi running away, uncertain about himself, sees kind of Yosho in him. As Yosho says, he's very much a different person than he used to be. But Tenchi's kind of this, and she's like, oh, I can give you that, right? And I can have my life with you, and kind of everyone's happy. She's not and it's one of the things I love about this movie. She's not trying to take over the world. She's not trying to kill anybody. It's just this last dying wish in a way.
And it's really to the point that, we call her a villain because I don't think we know what else to call her, because she's really, antagonist, whatever, because she's really not
a restless
villain.
soul.
Yeah,
she's really not a villain.
No, she's not. You're absolutely right.
Well, I mean, when you take somebody away without explanation, that immediately kind of classifies you in like the kidnapper kind of thing.
True.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, I guess there is that
now,
point. Like,
arguably, because of Tenchi's settling into this, and mind you, she also kind of screwed with his memory.
Absolutely. Yep.
So, you know what I mean? You got that extra sort of layer, you take him, and then it's not like you just say, I'll offer you all these things, peace and quiet, and you can have
it's not consensual.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't think if he was offered the opportunity, knowing Tenchi from the series, Tenchi would do something to try and help her. I don't think that he'd totally turn her away. He would go with her to help her solve the problem.
And we see that later in the movie when he recognizes Aika and Ryoko,
right?
But realizes who Haruno is and goes, "No, you two go. Like, this will not be resolved by you two yelling at her. She needs to have her own."
Because that's Tenchi. Tenchi's going to help her. But her initial effort into this is like, take him and blank his memory out, and then do things for him and with him. And it's just like, oh, okay. Well, that's kind of villainy.
Yeah, absolutely,
I don't know.
Eve's going to have to go in there and experience this to figure it out.
Exactly.
Well, I mean, I'm thinking choices here.
Yeah.
Domestic life, doing what you need, mind wiped of screeching royal woman, brutish, beautiful,
space
pirate, really dumb policewoman, another policewoman who's really not interested in anything or anybody. Sasami, who's cute, but really doesn't do anything. 10. His father's not there. He's not going to look at the window and see his father with the camera. I don't know. If it was me, the choice, I'd be like,
absolutely.
You're kind of blank the memory, please.
Well, and this is the plot of Tenchi in Tokyo. This is the thing: that both of those that the Tenchi Universe group and the Tenchi in Tokyo group both had this idea, basically collaborating. They went off. This group did the movie, they did the TV series. But it's very different takes on that concept, where you do see this, like, what would be better? Like, what would you prefer this? And I love how later on in the movie, we see this scene where Haruno goes and takes Tenchi his umbrella, and we see she is not living an idealized life for herself. Right? She's waiting for Tenchi. She's uncertain about him. She's waiting for him. She sees all these people coming and going, and she's clearly uncomfortable. This is, in a sense, her reality. She can make this happen the way she wants, but she has all the normal human reactions people have.
Which I thought was funny because, like, in her created universe, she can be the absolute rock star.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? She shouldn't have to worry about any other character drawing Tenchi's attention. So if he's late, is he hanging out with somebody? Is he doing something? It's like, no, your universe, you could be like, there is nobody else.
Yep.
The robot, the entire facility is filled with mannequins and Tenchi. And Tenchi can only go there and be with mannequins and then be with me. I'm the best thing ever. She actually makes the effort to make other believable characters in her world.
Yeah.
And then leads to her own kind of anxiety.
Yeah.
It's like, Wow.
Absolutely.
What kind of psychosis are you in, lady? Oh, that's right. That's right. You're with your grandson.
Yeah.
Potential.
Wait, got him.
Yeah.
But yeah, but it leads to this very sweet moment. And again, getting back to Tenchi being Tenchi, he does this very romantic thing where he's like, "No, I don't need the umbrella. We'll just walk with you," and it's just very sweet.
You needed a chalkboard to draw the little umbrella.
Exactly.
That's cute.
And then finally, Ryoko and Ayaka have a moment on the roof. I do love this moment where Ryoko just starts yelling out to Tenchi, and Ayaka joins, and we get this woman walking by going, "What the hell?
What's the yelling?"
The poor woman down there is just like, "They're at it again. Again, they just won't stop."
And we finally get
my shift is over in 10 minutes. I don't get paid enough to get this.
We get a lovely little moment of the two of them, again, sort of very much tension, way on love on the train, of them starting to go at it again. And then, they immediately stop. And I love, again, this is not that movie. They are united in this journey together, really. And they realize it. And what's so fascinating to me about this thing is I think this is one of the moments when Ayaka turns. Because this is the movie in which you know where Tenchi's ending up in this universe. And you can see Ayaka recognizing Ryoko's strength in this moment. But then they see, again, we have Tenchi appearing and disappearing again. Which then leads to, again, just kind of more goofiness of them doing it. And again, I think you get more about Ayaka, where what happens? Ryoko is concerned, Ayaka breaks down. Yeah. And she just runs off to the bathroom and just starts bawling. And I think this really demonstrates the difference between the two, is that, no offense to any Ayaka fans out there, but Ayaka has an obsession with Tenchi that Ryoko does not have. It's that sort of, okay, I'm going to piss off so many people with this. It's kind of like Twilight.
Oh boy.
Ayaka is nothing without Tenchi, right? She just, there's nothing in her.
She's going to hide over here.
Ayaka has just wrapped her entire world around Tenchi.
Yeah.
Whereas Ryoko has a more, I don't want to say balanced, but a more grounded feelings for him. There's a wonderful moment in one of the manga where there's a kind of a dream sequence, and Ryoko gets into a situation where she believes Tenchi might just completely turn his back on her and never love her again. And she goes, and I'm fine with that, because I will love Tenchi forever. And it's not a reference to this film, but she's like, he does not have to reciprocate his feelings for my feelings to be valid. And that is just such, that just so sums up where she's coming from in all of this.
Well, her relationship with Tenchi has been in Tenchi's entire life. I mean, even when she was in the cave,
right?
She's the spirit. She's always been around. She watched over him when his mother died, and felt sad for him and all that.
Yeah.
And Ayaka shows up, and for Ayaka, it's a simple moment of he just extends her hand out and helps her. And, in the OVA, it's the whole carrying her on his back, and she loves the idea of Tenchi, and she loves the fact that he is dry, and because he's half dry.
Right.
And so she's all these things in her romantic mind come together, whereas Ryoko is just going, I actually know the guy.
Yeah.
I actually know him. Mm-hmm. For Ayaka, it's a destruction of the ideal, because the reason why she's really upset is because she's finding out that he's having this relationship with Haruna, and even with his mind wiped or not, it's working.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It's working, and she can't handle it. Whereas Ryoko has seen him grow up and go through these things, or not necessarily relationships, but go through these things, and just understand that he's doing what's natural, which is moving on. And Ryoko, I think, recognizes the missed chances and says, "It's on us." And whereas Ayaka can't, she just can't.
Well, it's something Ryoko brings up multiple times. She said Tenchi may have just moved on and chosen someone else. Like that's life, you know.
Well, I think also for Ayeka, she always talks about Tenchi as Lord Tenchi.
Yeah.
He's always Lord Tenchi. So her lens that she views Tenchi through is either, what I always try to figure out is like, is she viewing him on a level plane as you are Jirai, you're royalty, I'm royalty, we're royals, or, and I lean more towards he's Lord Tenchi, so he's a step up. Ryoko never looks at Tenchi as anything less than a dead equal.
Yeah. Yep.
And and a lot of times, like the TV show, not even equal. Ryoko is definitely insanely strong.
Go ahead. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Ayeka, she always approaches him, and it's certainly in the movie it reinforces. She always approaches him from it feels like a lesser status,
power. Yeah.
So that she is giving him that upper, seat in this, while Ryoko just approaches him like on the same kind of level.
Yep.
So I totally get why Ayeka is breaking down, because it's just like, it's very hard for her to be in that kind of situation where Haruna is being treated like an equal, like Ryoko gets. And it's just like,
Absolutely.
Oh boy,
Yep.
That's a hard pill to swallow.
Absolutely, yeah, totally. I mean, you do feel for Ayeka in this, she's put everything on Tenchi, and it's all falling apart. And
all
then
the eggs in one basket, if you
right. And then Kione gets her fantastic little Ghost in the Shell sequence here, where she gets to break into the Royal Academy, which is where Washu comes from. And we get some wonderful science fiction ridiculousness. And then, speaking of Ayeka,
I love the alligator clips into like the super ass computer. It's like, oh, that'll just do it.
Exactly.
Like, what?
I was like watching it. I was like going, paper clips? What? Paperclips, and just inserting in random crevices.
I mean, there's not even any kind of connector points to
right.
it.
I'm like, my USB port has more of a, makes more sense.
Well, like given the time period, you could have just made like a 9-pin or a 21-pin parallel connector cord, just plugged it in like that. I mean, that would have made more sense than alligator clips. What are you trying to hack into like the KGB in like 1960s Berlin? Oh, I would just get on the telephone line, you money penny.
5,000 years in the future, and it'll all be PS1 cables. Getting screwed in. Who knows?
It's all going to be Clockwork Planet, where you just have to wind up all the super technology. Oh, okay, there we go.
And speaking of Ayeka, we then get Ayeka's dream, where she imagines Tenchi's come to hammer it home, right? Like she's really worried about this, and she wakes up and you get this sequence, which again, for folks like us who have some experience with this, we kind of see what's going on here. Because this is I'm actually going to see if I can find out exactly. So she wakes up.
And I was going to say, for Tenchi-verse experts like you all are, does she risk a loss of status if Tenchi does not find interest in her? Is there other Jirai? We've seen Sasami goes to Jirai, and there's other men that presumably would be status accepting that would make her.
Well, remember in the OVA, Ayeka ran after Yosho. Like that was her first love. She had a huge crush on Yosho.
And they were arranged.
Yeah. And then she transferred that to Tenchi. Ayeka, in a lot of ways, is the gilded cage. Bird in a gilded cage. You know, she had this thing that she was going to do when she was of age. And that was just it. And now that that's not it anymore, the only thing she can do is move to Tenchi. With that, just nothing else enters her mind. There are plenty of opportunities.
She doesn't lose any status. If anything, it increases. Like if you were to look at it in a way, this is kind of getting political, but in a way, if you were to look at it in a way of royal political maneuvering,
right?
This would actually increase her honestly within that context, because then she comes you know, she can be married off to another part of the Jirai family
Right.
to create alliances, to create a stronger union, and that increases her in terms of royalty more worth.
And one thing they've established in the larger canon is that Jirai very much builds off of the classic idea of creating alliances through marriage. So very typically you have this other empire somewhere and you're marrying to them.
And remember, Yosho is actually her
brother.
Yeah, had to pull down the tree.
In OVA one.
Brother, in the OVA. Had to pull down the thing. Yeah.
I think it's like half brother, but whatever.
But that's what they do.
So it's only half wrong. Okay, cool. Neat.
But I mean, she's related to Tenchi when you think about it. So she's
there.
Yeah. So
stop doing that.
But
I've never watched any show that had Brocon and Syscon. No, stop it.
But no, she hasn't. End result, she hasn't.
No. So we have this like 2-minute scene between Ryoko and Ayeka, which consists of, I think, maybe 4 different camera angles. And basically just lip flaps. Going back between the two of them. They clearly do not have a lot of budget for this scene. So what they do is they give Ryoko her monologue in this scene. Yeah. This is where Ryoko really comes into her own and gives that speech. And again, full props to the voice actors in here because she nails it, of just having that tone of saying, look, and it's this wonderfully exhausted tone where she's like, I don't like this situation, but this is where we are. Face the facts. Tenchi may have moved on, whatever, but we're here, we're going to do our thing. And by the way, if you want to give up, fine. And I'm not even saying that in a nasty way. I'm saying that's a totally reasonable reaction to the situation. Because, sure, this is hard. But this is my direction. I'm going in that direction. I'm going to do whatever I can to get Tenchi back.
Which I think for a very limited animation scene.
Yeah.
This is exactly the scene you need for that speech.
Exactly, yes.
Because having a lot of, moving around a lot, moving the futons and opening the door and everything, that would be very distracting.
Yes.
It saves money, undoubtedly. But I think it so laser focuses what's going on by making this as simplistic as possible visually so that you can effectively focus on the impact of what Ryoko's saying.
Absolutely. I totally. And that's why I think this is a great scene, because they use it properly.
Yeah. Kudos to them.
Yeah, it would have been very easy to make this a cheap scene that felt cheap. Instead, it felt like a cheap scene, an expensive scene that had depth.
Yeah.
Totally. And then we move on from there to the next appearance of Tenchi. Again, bang, it's gone. And again, we see Ryoko's reaction. I love the fact that Ryoko doesn't see him. She immediately goes down on her knees. And by the way, for those not aware, classically in Japan, if you're out on a dusty street, you don't want to touch the street. Yeah. So you're not going to put your hand on the street. You're not going to balance yourself. You just need to get down. But her reaction is dang, that Tenchi really is annoying, isn't he? It's this. She's making light of the situation. She's not breaking down the way Ayeka was.
But really, you can feel. Just because the character that Ryoko is, that just in doing that, just simply hunching down is the weight of this.
Yes.
And it's just wow, okay, we've seen Ayeka break down in the bathroom. She's gone off someplace quiet that she could do what she has to do on her own. And here's Ryoko having her moment, and it's couldn't be more public. Yeah. She's in the middle of the road, and she fully owns that feeling. She's not...
Yeah. Somewhere
behind closed doors having her moment. She's there for everybody to see.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Like a good space pirate.
Exactly, yes. We then come back to Haruno's Worlds, and one of my favorite shots in anime, besides just in all of this, which is Haruno walking in to very self-satisfyingly see the portrait of herself. And then she turns away from that, and turns and actually spins a little bit in place and then walks off to reveal the drawing of Ryoko.
Oh, I thought you were going to say the pineapple and the fruit. Or hatred of pineapples.
Exactly. Because you don't notice it immediately, right? Your eye's like, okay, and we're going to cut, right? Like, we're going to move along. We're staying here, right? Whoa! Like, I know what that is.
Yep.
Mm-hmm. And you realize it's starting to break down. And then, of course, Haruna comes back to it and sees this. And again, I love, Haruna doesn't break down. Haruna doesn't, yell or anything. She just snatches it and balls it up. Because it is this kind of betrayal of what's going on. But, she's keeping it together, right? She's not having that kind of reaction.
Well, it's also kind of an interesting moment because the anger that she has, or the reaction that she has, I wouldn't necessarily say full-on anger, but the reaction she has is an acknowledgement that, first of all, the mind wipe was not as complete as she had hoped for.
Mm-hmm.
And then second of all, her grasp on the full function of her own world is not total.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, up until this point, she has been completely, but for her anxiety of the characters in her world, she is the master of the world. She did this thing, there it is.
Mm-hmm.
And here's an element of it, sort of like, there's like a bug. There's a bug in this, and it's starting to show that she didn't do this entirely the way that she intended.
Exactly. It's almost frustration at herself.
Yeah.
Like, I didn't architect this right. Which we see later on that she tries to fix that and doesn't.
Yeah.
And she's just like, no. Well, if we just hide it away, right, then it won't be a problem anymore.
Well, it's very interesting that she just doesn't do a mind wipe.
No. Well, and this is the other thing is that Haruna hasn't practiced this.
Right.
She just saw it and she's like, let's try this. Let's see if this works. And as far as we know, it's been working for 6 months. Well.
Right.
Time dilation, but still.
Well, and we don't have when Tenchi wakes up in that first, when he's flying through the ether space with camellia flowers, we don't have any data on, like, has Haruna been, like, hammering this out? So he's floating in the ether space, basically saved as backup.
Yeah.
While she's loading all this up and trying to construct it in a way that makes some kind of sense. We also don't know. She's gone. So presumably whatever element of her can power this is not necessarily infinite.
Right. Yes.
So, there's all those functions of it. It's like there's a bug, but we don't know that she's got enough power to just go, yep, I'll just blanket, do it all again.
And this is one of the things I think Yosho realizes is that she's dying. She clearly cannot live forever. This is her last gasp.
Her spirit energy is flittering off into the universe.
Yeah. Well, that's the part of the television. The part of the television tells you that she can't control all the aspects of this world. She can probably build it, because if she was omniscient, truly omniscient, that television would be putting on an average show.
Right.
She doesn't know what the shows are.
Yeah.
She doesn't know what the news would be. She doesn't know, that the weatherman would forecast, or unless you want to do it. Someone pointed out earlier in the chat land, the Groundhog Day would be the same day over and over again. Yeah. It's 6:07 and it's raining.
Wow, for 6 months it's been 6:07 and raining, and it's clearly sunny outside. What's up with that?
What's going on? I don't know.
Well, there's another thing that I haven't paid attention to, but I believe the clock next to Tenchi's bed is always at the same time.
Yeah, whenever he wakes up, it's always the same time.
But I think they showed it other parts of the day, and I think it's still the same time.
Oh.
So I'm not sure if she's doing that. I'm not sure.
Well, see, this is related and aside, but there was a Next Gen episode where the Enterprise encounters another society that does not want to be contacted, and so they make a deal that if you guys let us mind wipe you, and then we'll drop you off over here, then it'll be like you never, like something happened, like a wormhole. Oh, that was crazy. And there's like these little slight clues, because the effort to make the normal at the other end wasn't they couldn't get it exactly perfect, and it's like makes me think of Haruna doing all that.
Well,
it's like she can't do the TV, so the TV's just got to be broken.
Okay.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? He wakes up to her chopping up stuff and doing things, and it's like clocks are, they're secondary thoughts.
Right.
There's other things in the world.
Bank account.
Right.
Yeah,
It's
right.
all just kind of gobbledygook because there's just some things that they visually look good enough.
Yeah.
And the mechanics of it are just a little, too far beyond her to control that.
Well, and not to get too creepy, but there have been like studies done into like mind wiping real people. And one of the problems is if you truly mind wipe somebody, they don't have language anymore.
Yeah.
Right? Like, because like that's part of your memories, right? Is how to do all that stuff. And you can't like really selectively like remove this memory because that's part connected to all these other things. So it is incredibly difficult to actually just, reset a certain part of the mind.
Well, if Redo of Healer, beyond its really problematic aspects, has taught me nothing, is that the combination of alchemy and magic, you can mind wipe and turn somebody who's horrible into a wonderful person.
Awesome. Yeah. And again, I love how Haruna reacts to this because it is on the one hand manipulative, where she just starts crying. But on the other hand, it is kind of accurate to where she is right now, where she's like, I don't know. Like, I don't know what I'm doing here. I'm just upset. And that's all she wants. And again, I love the imagery of the reflection in the knife. Just that is where we are right now.
Love me, Tenchi, or I'm going to cut you up like this leaf.
Oh. That was my little Higurashi moment. I was just like, no.
Love me, Tenchi! Oh, God, no!
And then they go out ring
shopping. God, I was like, what?
Yeah, and again, this is something we talked about with Princess Mononoke is, imagine being an animator, being told, okay, for half the movie they have rings on their hands, and half the movie they don't. You got to keep track of which hand has the ring, which one doesn't, what scene it's
Continuity.
in.
Its orientation on the finger, all that shit. Stuff.
Crazy. It's why you don't see those very often in anime. It's just expensive to keep track of that stuff.
Right.
So they get the ring, which becomes important later. And so we get some, goofy stuff with Ryoko and Ayaka interacting. And then we finally get an actual intersection between the two. And you spoke of sound design earlier, Steve. I love how whenever Ryoko tries to interact with them, there's this sort of
yeah,
and like she does it a lot, and they always synchronize it so that it's always hitting the right way. It's great.
Yeah.
And this is the first time when you realize, oh, Haruna is
as she stares daggers at them,
and oof. Very confidently. Like it's not just stay away. Like it's I got this handled. There's nothing you can do.
You're in my sandbox. Like I control everything here.
Exactly.
I have the milkshake, not you.
Which I honestly expected. Like when that happened, I got not jumpy, but I was like I was ready for her to do something really catastrophic to happen. Be like and then it just didn't.
No.
Haruna does not break character with Tenchi looking out the window and doing his thing. She's just looking at Aika and Ryoko and just kind of like
she was just like again very confident, but she was just had that look of just like whatever it is that you're trying to do ain't gonna work, and you just need to move along.
Yep, absolutely. Well, and again, we've seen. I'm thinking back to Hyperdolls. We've seen a lot of anime of confrontations in cafes, which then turn into a knockdown, drag-out fight. As they're being somersaulted and vaulted all over the place.
And the poor cafe takes it in the neck. But this time the cafe just goes a reality shift, and and that nobody's able to contact each other, but they're just aware, and then you're just like, at the end of it, like you, John, like the first time I've seen it, I was just like, okay, here comes the metaphysical thing that's going to knock Ryoko and Ayaka on their butts in their reality or whatever. And it just doesn't happen. She just goes, I'm just going to blink and we're going to be gone and I'm not going to have to deal with you anymore.
Which the thing I thought was curious about this too is like the reality that Ryoka and Eka are from has people.
Yes.
Right.
This is like, it's like, again, at the end of the film, looking backwards, it's like, is Tenchi's school had people? When Haruna was waiting outside of the school with the umbrella, there were people. Now they're in a family restaurant and there's nobody.
Yep. Well,
so is Haruna running out of juice? It's like, is this, it's too much to populate this space. It's about her and Tenchi, and that's all. And she's putting all of the reserves that she has now. That
question, actually, I'm going to go backwards a little bit. I want to see if I can see their interaction in the world. You know what I just realized? I don't know if this is intentional or not. As we pan down that street, nobody moves, which is a common thing in anime, right? You just pan across.
You don't have to animate it if you just show it.
But also, they're the only ones in the jewelry shop. I just realized that.
Other than the, obviously.
Yeah. But there are no other customers. That's a really good point. I wonder if, Haruna is just like, nope. And it's also interesting pointing out, and I do wonder if this isn't sort of a sort of power thing. We do know that if you pass over somebody else in the two worlds, there is some reaction. And you notice that when they phase out, that booth is empty. So I wonder if Haruna isn't intentionally making sure that the people in her world don't overlap with people in the other world. So if this is a crowded restaurant, then we have to sit in the empty booth, right, to make that work. I don't know. But yeah, I think you're absolutely right. I think that Haruna is starting to lose it.
Yeah, because, I mean, she hasn't populated the interior of the restaurant with anybody.
No.
And, and it's... Well, it's an interesting kind of moment, too, that Tenchi doesn't turn around and look at a family restaurant and be like looking the booths behind her and then turn around, look behind him and be like, is it like an unusual time of day?
Where
like,
is everybody?
It's 7 a.m. again.
Yeah.
Oh, no.
So the thought I have about her power and not having enough juice, which I think is correct, is that the power is not actually hers. It's the tree that she's buried under. And, but it's a masterless tree, as you show.
Yeah, it's her tree.
It's not originally her tree. It doesn't belong to anybody. There's no Jirai that belongs to that. And she came from a class where they don't have those trees that prolong your lives.
My grandfather said that was her tree.
No, it was
under her tree.
I think he said that was basically a tree he brought along to be her tree, but it's not like her Jirai connected, synchronized tree, I think.
Oh, see, I totally missed that. I thought that was her Jirai tree. I was like,
right.
Well, yeah, that's why she's got some power, and it's...
No, she's using that, and the tree is dying.
Because she's drawing it off?
Well, I think it's dying to begin with, and it's if we wrap into, because it's Tenchi and we like to be smacked in the face with a 2x4 called Shinto in this anime, and it's as the tree is dying, then her spirit is dying because she's drawing so much power from it,
right? And
then as she speeds up the process of the tree dying, and that's why Yosho at the end I think attacks the tree. The tree of happiness. Yeah. So when she's drawing on the power, it's not really her power. So she's drawing on it. And so I think you're right in that she doesn't have the juice.
Yeah.
And that's why she's not populating it. But I think the reason why she doesn't have the juice is because it's actually not her tree. It's a dying tree. It's a dying tree.
Wow. So she's caught in a fatal spiral.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
She needs the tree's remaining power to fuel what she's doing,
and
while she's fueling what she's doing, she's killing the thing that's giving her the power to do it.
Exactly.
Interesting.
Which is, I think, another reason why Yosho is so hesitant to act, because he knows that A, killing the tree kills Haruna effectively, but B, it doesn't really kill Haruna, as we see. Like, it simply cuts off her power, but she's still there. Her spirit still exists. This is just cutting off that power source. What is that necessarily going to do?
Well, when Anakin shows up as the young Anakin, Obi-Wan over here in Yoda.
Exactly,
oh, that's right. She becomes one with the Force.
Yeah. And so we move back and we get to see Ozaka and Kamadake, sort of fan.
Yes.
These are the logs. If you've seen Tenchi Muyo, the logs.
Yes.
Out
Oh,
front.
yeah.
This is the human form of those log
Of
guardians.
those logs.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's who they are.
Yeah.
I didn't realize they had a human form.
Yeah, they do.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, I forget the whole nonsense about it, but they basically, like, their consciousnesses are transferred into the logs because the logs have all these crazy powers to them.
Yeah.
But then they can get, reverted back and have their human bodies if they want to.
So does the log exist alongside of them, or do they physically become the log?
I'm not.
Okay.
The log.
Well, at first time I saw the logs, I'm like, oh, it's basically like a wooden robot.
Right.
Like, I'm not sure I can grasp what's going on with that.
In fairness, like the whole Tenchi OVA goes along, and they're just logs. Like you have no
They're
idea
just
how
logs.
to say anything.
It's long.
Yeah.
It's long.
Oh,
it's
it's big. It's heavy.
It's
It's
wood.
wood.
It's long. It's long. It's better
than bad,
I
it's
think it's good.
And then Yosho comes to the tree in a change of clothing, so things are changing. And then, like you say, and I love we switch to the television, and we think it's the television in their world, but it's the television in their apartment, and it's showing a ridiculously sappy, stupid soap opera, which I think is again kind of the film crew going. Parallels?
Nudge,
Just saying.
nudge. Hey, see that?
Yeah.
Yeah, and then we start moving into the next phase of the actual plot here, where we can actually sync over with Haruna. And again, they do some really smart things here, where Tenchi's not feeling well, and so he's kind of trying to figure out what's going to happen. And see if I can find the actual frame here. Yeah,
I like the part too where they run around and they place these gizmos for Washu to do her thing. I'm like, wait a minute, didn't we do that with the Tokyo Tower thing and the whole?
Yeah. I was expecting, because there were 5 of them in a ring. I was like, oh, it's the 5 Fudo temples, all right? Like, we're just gonna reuse that plot line, but not quite. But I do like the little moment here where he sees the light blue paint blob, and he just starts making Ryoko's hair out of it, very idly. In that way that you do when you got these paint, you're just playing around with color and seeing what happens.
Yeah. Notice that it's not a Ayaka hair color.
Yeah, that's right.
And in fairness, right, like Ryoko is the most memorable visually, right? So you could initially say, well, that's just the first one that comes to mind.
First one comes to mind comes to heart.
Yep. And so Haruna realizes what's going on, comes back inside. Everything is fine, though. Of course. And so Haruna decides to, just let it go for now. And so then we get the scene with Yosho where he finally realizes, okay, yeah, this is serious, right? This isn't just, my past kind of coming back to haunt me. No, like Tenchi's in danger. We need to do something about it.
How did Washu show up in the fire? It's Washu.
It's Washu, yeah. Well,
that's the answer.
He's the most
little Washu.
Yeah.
Most brilliant mind in the universe.
I really wanted, and when she did that, I really wanted to hear the science song.
Yeah.
The science song? Did I miss
science
the
song
science
from
song?
the OVA? It's the OVA, right? Or is
so,
it Universe? Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a great little song when she tries to explain science to Ryoko, and it just goes off on this tangent. And at the end, she goes, "You understand now?" And Ryoko's like, "No, not even a little bit."
Nice. Well, that's good.
Exactly. Yeah, so we got our backstory, which is fine. We find out that every camellia in Japan was planted by Yosho. Fine, whatever.
He's the Camellia Appleseed. No, hold on.
Pretty much, yeah.
Yeah.
And so then we get, we start getting back with Haruna in the universe, where she realizes that he's still drawing Ryoko. It hasn't gotten better. It's still there. And so she does. And again, I love it. This is jealousy. Right? Like, she doesn't want him to have that girl in his head. Not because she hates because she's... It's more just, I'm your wife. I should be the only thing in your head right now, right?
Yeah.
And he doesn't understand that, but, of course, how could he? And so she decides to use her womanly ways to make him forget in this scene. And this is a gentleman by the name of Koji Moromoto, an animator. I've talked about him in my panels frequently. He worked on Tenchi Forever, and he is a genius when it comes to understanding the three-dimensionality of characters and being able to move them in 3 dimensions. So if you imagine, if I do this with my hands, right, I am compressing together the skin, and that compression is based on the musculature and the bones underneath those things. So when they compress, if I'm animating that, I can only compress that so much in lines. But all I have to work with in animation are black lines and the skin tone, right? Maybe a shadow color.
Right.
So being able to represent this motion, for example, in 2D is very, very difficult because of all the shapes moving in and out. And in this scene, there are so many sequences of hands moving across muscle and skin and going in and out over things and caressing things, where you have to know exactly how much fat and muscle is in that spot as the hand is moving over. It is unreal, and that is what Koji Morimoto can do and does. And it's just brilliant work from a pure 2D animation perspective of how much he's able to think through how all those things work. And he is clearly drawing this entire sequence. And again, just the deformation of that, it's just, it blows me away every time. And again, it's very intimate. It's very, it is this scene where two characters are literally being like physically intimate with each other. And so it's important to represent that correctly. And they don't feel just like, 2 drawings slapped on top of each other. Right? It's important.
Bam, 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 bam.
Yeah, exactly.
No.
I'm not going to go there.
It's not 10 o'clock yet.
Yeah, exactly. But then she gets the moment out of him, right? She gets the promise. Will you love me forever? Yes. Will you be with me forever? Yes. And then she kind of seals the deal, so to speak, which I got to fast forward through.
Yeah.
But yeah, and again, we're not afraid of this movie. Yeah. The spaceship comes in for a landing.
Mm-hmm. That's not symbolic of anything.
Not at all. And then you get more. And again, I think this swing scene is very classically Koji Morimoto, where you have this movement in space. If you've ever seen Naruto and you've seen the scenes of like characters getting thrown, over each other's shoulders and that kind of stuff, that's Koji Morimoto's work. That's very much
I've never heard of that series. Is it popular?
No.
What is this narrative?
It seems to be obscure. I don't think I've heard of it.
Yeah. I don't know. It's
Now,
it's
quick, let me
basically
run away.
It's basically yeah.
Okay. It's very obscure.
Yeah, exactly. And so you get more, and again, like you say, very much Tenchi Muyo in love, strapping things to trees, and getting power out of them.
Little washu dolls.
Yeah, washu dolls, which is just absurd.
Yeah.
But that's fine. And so Tenchi finally realizes things are not right, and like you say, the absurd. And looking back over this, I didn't realize the first time I thought they were it was also basically blanks, but it's literally 11-1-1-11, and then just all 9s for the balances.
Yep.
Right.
It's like, oh no, that's like somebody typed that, so to speak. It's and yeah, it's
Tenchi's just really, really rich. That's all 9s. He's got 999 billion yen. Oh.
Doing just fine on that artist's salary.
Yeah, I guess those sketches are really they're rocking it up in Saudi Arabia. There's rich oil princes love his drawings.
And I also love the fact that we never see Haruno's job.
Right.
She says she has this part-time job that makes them money, but we never have any hint of what that is.
Her job is being Tenchi's wife.
Well, exactly, right?
Apparently.
That is very much the thing. Whereupon it all starts to fall apart as we finally get our first big climax moment, which, like a good Tenchi Muyo movie, has multiple phases, because we can't just have a simple climax.
No.
We get this, again, whoever did the special effects scene for the cloud, the rotating spinning cloud thing and the little tendrils coming off, they deserve some money for that.
Yeah. They got their $10.75 an hour for it. They're fine.
Pretty much. And then we get a shining moment of awesome for Ryoko coming in and just literally teleporting out of space into there, breaking the thing.
Boom! Yeah.
And then I love Ayaka's like on the ground, just like
I missed.
I missed. Didn't quite land that landing.
And stick it.
And again, getting back to your point again, the woman next to her goes, "Would you like some persimmons, Haruna?" Right,
yeah.
Just repeating the same thing.
That would creep me out too if I just showed up there. Would you like some Haruna?
That would creep me out too, Steve. If I'm watching this and you're in there offering fresh persimmons to people, I'd be like, what? Oh, man.
Yeah.
Come on, Veritech. Give me a Veritech.
Yeah.
Where's the Veritech? if we're getting crazy wishes, I want one now.
Exactly. And so you get the confrontation where initially Haruna tries to keep the act up and then realizes it's not working, so she just says straight up, leave. Get out of here. And I also find this very interesting. Ryoko comes in. Did you notice this? Haruna looks down and looks at Ryoko's shoes.
Yeah.
And then looks back up and tells her off. Why? How dare you wear your dirty shoes, your street shoes in our house? And it's the pretext she needs, right? It's not a real thing, but it's like, that's what I'm going to latch on to, that you've been rude, to tell you off and out of the house. It's just brilliant. Where Punchy cast them back
Well,
out.
I think it's also interesting because if you look at Haruna as she appears in any of the other given points in this, she wears very, I hate to use the word dainty, but she uses very feminine shoes. Her footwear, or the times you see her, she's wearing very feminine shoes. And that I think is not only just the shoes in the house, it is also her. She's assessing Ryoko.
Yeah.
That she, as Tenchi's wife, is superior. She is more feminine. Ryoko is this thuggish, like combat boot or ugly chunky shoe wearing lady. So it's a sort of kind of an assessment as well. Be like, no, Tenchi would choose me because look at me and look at you.
Maybe I'm reading too much into it, but I always thought that when she looked at the shoes, she's reminded of herself because she was never proper for Yosho, and that's the whole point that they ran away. And so
did they point that out in this movie, or is that somewhere else that I've missed?
What?
Because I know they ran away, but I missed that she wasn't good enough for him. I thought
she was not of Jirai royal class, and so the relationship was never approved of. It wasn't just not being able to be his wife, Yosho's wife, but not even to be a concubine. So because she's of a class that is not approved.
Okay.
And
I thought it was just literally they loved each other and they were not supposed to be married and they took off. I didn't realize it was.
I think part of it is
divide in that respect.
Is that, but it's the context of that Yosho isn't supposed to marry her no matter what. But the other part of the context is that the reason they give him for her is that, well, look at her, she's lower class.
A commoner.
She's a commoner. So she's looking. So she has Tenchi, and she's looking at Ryoko's shoes, and she realizes that Tenchi has feelings for Ryoko, much the way that Yosho had feelings for her.
That's a great point. Yeah.
So she's seeing that she's losing Tenchi the way that someone else had lost Yosho to her.
That's a great insight.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
No, I think you're absolutely right. Yeah.
Damn. There's a lot in just a pair of shoes.
Yeah, exactly. Which I think is why she turns, where she's like, "Oh no. Like I've got to completely reset this. This is just not gonna work." And so it doesn't work. And then we have her standoff between the two of them. And again, like you're saying, John, the first time you watch this, I was like, okay, here's where the fireworks fly, right? It's just the three of them in this empty space, and now we're gonna see, giant energy beams,
Battle Royale.
No, Haruno just says, go. Like, it's not gonna happen. But before she says that, she says the thing that's in like a lot of fans' minds: how different are we really? And obviously that's the standard villain thing, but also it's like, you guys are constantly trying to force your way of thinking onto Tenchi. You're constantly, at his side complaining about him, all this kind of stuff. Really, I'm doing a very similar thing to you, right? I'm attached to him the way you're attached to him. And they say rightly, well, you've taken steps we did not. But still, she is very much, of a similar mold to the other girls.
Yeah. She just has the magical tree power cojones to do something about it.
Exactly.
She has the tree of happiness.
Yeah,
exactly.
Right.
The dying tree of
Happiness.
Oh, wow. That's kind of different.
Yeah. And so Tenchi wakes up again. You can't quite see it here. And I don't know, for those of you who watched it, I don't know who noticed this. I'm actually going to scale this up a little bit so folks can see. Oh, I can't quite show that. That's annoying. Nope, I can't show that. There we go. That'll work. When he wakes up, did anyone else notice the clue that Haruna still has a problem?
I see a ring. I see his hair.
Exactly. Where did
It
he get
looks
the ring
like-
from? Right? Like, he got the ring in the last version of reality. He did not wake up with that ring the first time.
That's true.
Mm-hmm.
So she's forgetting, right? And letting things kind of slip through because she's just not paying attention very well.
She's under a lot of stress.
She's under a lot of stress.
She's been dead for quite a while.
Right, exactly.
And her part-time job is just, come on.
Exactly.
It doesn't. It pays really, really well, but it's not really all that stimulating.
No, exactly. It's only 999,999,999 yen a month. That's all.
Yeah, I mean, it's like pennies.
Come on.
You have to cook at your own home. You only
Right.
occasionally go to a very empty family restaurant.
Exactly. Eat pasta.
You know?
And again, again, not a lot of money, so you reuse sequences, but you reuse them wisely. You reuse them to creep the F out of your audience. Oh, shoot! Don't do this.
Don't redo us. No, come on now.
Right, exactly. And then that's the thing, is that then what they do is as soon as that plays out, Ryoko and Ayaka break right back in. No. And even Ayaka goes, stuck the landing that time. And comes in and they have another argument. And this is that point we were talking about before where Tenchi finally kind of realizes what's going on and is like, no. Like, this is the wrong situation, wrong approach. You guys need to go. Haruna and I need to work this out. Like husband and wife, frankly.
I'm sorry, honey, you're dead.
Yeah, exactly. And I love the layout of
Bunch
this
of
scene there.
brothers.
Yeah. That Aika and Ryoko, fall down. And it's a hard landing. And again, these characters all take a lot of knocks throughout the course of this universe.
Yeah.
And they are clearly in pain. And Ryoko just lays out, on her back, just like done.
With her size 12 shoes.
And size 8 shirt, it should be pointed
Right.
out.
Hey, I'm not arguing about the shirt.
Right, yeah.
It's just the Air Jordans that would fit Shaq. Or
Yeah. It's a very Ryoko outfit. Actually, there's another thing I want to point out about this movie. You talked about kind of the fan service of the outfits. Street clothes, right?
Yeah.
There is very little in here about sensationalizing the characters. Haruno wears this very plain outfit the entire time. It's kind of remarkable how much restraint the movie shows in not trying to kind of commercialize the looks of the characters.
Yeah, there's no micro skirts. There's no panty shots. There's no really.
Yeah.
I mean, Aika, she wears. It looks like a trench coat, like a semi-fitting trench coat. I'm like, what is up with that?
Easy to cosplay.
Yeah. Go buy me a London Fog and show up with purple hair and be like, "Hi, Micah, look at it."
But again, just the expression on Ryoko's face and those tears that glimmer in her eyes when she's just grieving. And she realizes this might be it. This is, Tenchi's decided. And again, they've set this up. They've laid the groundwork where we know Tenchi, we know Ryoko understands the stakes.
Yeah.
And she's willing to accept it, but it still hurts. There's a great moment in A Tale of Memories, which is an adaptation of a visual novel. And what they did is they chose certain plot lines which go, and certain the main character ends up with certain girls and not others. And so there's a scene where he doesn't choose one of the girls, and then goes and talks to her through a door, and they have this long conversation about how you're gonna be with her and not me. And there's a line where he goes, "I'm sorry. How do you feel?" And she says, "It hurts, but I'll get over it. And you need to be with her."
Wow.
And it's not her realizing that; it's her realizing that for him, that's the right thing for him to do.
Wow.
And so she's kind of giving him up in that very mature way of going, "I don't like it, and emotionally I don't want this, but intellectually I recognize the right decision." And it's very much what Ryoko is doing here. She's grieving, but
then she goes and gets Truck-kun and runs him down at the intersection. Oh,
yeah,
such closure.
Mm-hmm. And so again, another reset. He wakes up again, and again we cut through that again where Tenchi goes, "All right, Haruna. Nope. I remember we gotta address this. This is not working. Let's talk about this like adults, right? It's so refreshing in anime." Anyway, so they have the conversation about what's going on. So then we get Yosho in the tree.
Grandpa's got to straighten this out.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And this is the tough thing, is again, he has to kill his first love, in a way. This is the hard thing. And you see what it does to her. She's in horrible pain. Yeah. I also like that it causes the ribbon to loosen. Mm-hmm. And so she becomes a little bit more wild, if you will, visually. Yeah. As he's, destroying the power that kept her there. But that is clearly also, and again, it's why it does kind of come through, is that he's basically going, okay, in order to deal with this, I need to actually deal with this.
I killed you once by bringing you away from Jirai, right. And now I'm finishing the job.
Yeah.
Wow, that sounds kind of brutal.
But it also,
I tried to rent Truck-kun and they were booked out.
Exactly. Yeah. But what he does, but it's also not just killing her. It's allowing him to connect with her, to say, "Hey, look, I was wrong. I was the cause of this, and you need to get past it. And also, you need to stop hurting this person because of what you feel about me." And that, I think, is one of those most powerful moments in the film, is where he's having this conversation, and he basically goes, now please let my grandson go.
Yeah.
And she goes, "Oh, crap, you're right. This isn't about him at all."
Which, why, now that you've explained that, Haruna, that the camellia tree is not her tree, right, that she's not Jirai tree people. Mm-hmm. As weird as that statement sounds.
It's accurate.
It's Shinto.
Why then? I kind of, somewhere in the back of my head, I'm like, okay, whatever her tree, she wasn't connected to the Jirai power. They made this long journey, and he's strong enough with his connection to presumably the ship's tree that brought them there that he's fine, but she's away from her tree, so she lost power, she got sick, and she died. Mm-hmm. What is there somewhere in this that I missed? Was she just sickly, and that's just the long journey was the problem, or is there some kind of was there some connection with the home world that the further she got away, she got sicker? That's what I kind of didn't get that part.
It's not explained, but here's what I have understood. I have seen very few examples, basically none, in the Tenchi universe of people taking Jirai ships who are not Jirai.
Right.
Okay.
I get the sense that normal people can't handle normal space travel on a Jirai ship. So he basically said, "Come with me, my love. I'm sure it'll be okay." But it is extremely stressful on the body because of whatever ridiculous magic powers are coursing through the ship or whatever. And so she's just not able to handle that in that way. Again, I'm not sure, but that's kind of what I'm assuming.
Well, each Jirai ship is based on a Jirai tree that is linked to its
specific
master,
Jirai person.
Jirai person who is usually of royalty or of nobility or royalty. The common Jirai person doesn't have this tree.
Right.
So when you see Sasami in that scene where it looks like you're in the side of the trunk of a tree,
right?
Okay, that's where they grow these trees. That's where where she accesses this information and stuff like that. These trees go with them to help protect them and keep their ability to stay youthful to almost immortality. That's their tree. So for me, it translates to, in historical perspective, in real life perspective, of people dying en route on journeys from, like, say, Europe to the New World. People just can't handle those long voyages sometimes. It's just too long. It's too stressful. There's just not enough provisions or whatever. He tried to bring a tree to attach to her, but it did not take. But when she died, he planted the tree over her body, and her spirit linked
this is the other thing, is that the tree chooses you.
Right. Yeah, that's right.
Okay.
That's right.
You can't just give somebody a tree and make it happen.
Right.
Okay. Interesting.
Which means one of the implications is that it is possible that over time the tree, or perhaps in that moment, the tree saw what was going on with Haruna and kind of accepted her in that moment. And kind of gave her the power to do this thing with Tenchi. But there was no like direct connection up to that point, presumably.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because I was saying, because like light speed travel or whatever, I can understand if Tenchi's grandfather arrives and he's still youthful because of his tree, and then like Haruna's like 8 billion years old because the tree didn't give her the same sort of space travel thing.
It's almost like that scene from Planet of the Apes, the original movie. Where they wake up in the spaceship and the woman's dead because the hibernation chamber didn't work.
Right.
So it's kind of like that. Go ahead.
It should also be pointed out that there's lots of exceptions in the Tenchi universe where it's like, this just didn't work this one time. So who knows?
All right.
But yeah, I think that all makes sense. So Yosho shows up, and Captain Laser, you're absolutely right. They made a lot of effort in this to make young Yosho look a lot like Tenchi, and to really drive home that physical connection between the two. And so they finally go back, and we get it again, the scene between Ryoko and Aika, and I'm tearing up a little bit because this is where Ryoko goes, "No, you're the stronger one," basically. Like, you're the one. And so Ryoko comes back in, and this is again one of those scenes where I think a lot of that I know a lot of Tenchi fans were hoping for someday in the franchise. I never thought they'd actually get, which is a scene between just Ryoko and Tenchi, where she's like, "I've come for you," and he's like, "Yep, like I want you, like I want you to come get me and take me out of here." And it's time to go. And again, I love Ryoko's vulnerability here, where she just collapses on herself in relief. And it's just like I wasn't sure. Like I didn't know what you would do, what you would say, and I'm so relieved. And then of course she has to twist the knife a little bit of I didn't come just for you. Like I just want to see if it was going to happen. Right. But yeah, and so he takes her off. I love this. I love that they spent the time to show that he put the rings back.
Yeah.
Right? Like, no, I'm moving on, but also that we see the camellia with the petal fallen. Like, just all of that symbolism is just perfect. And so, she takes him away.
Which the vase in that one shot that you have there,
right,
is reminiscent of like a Buddhist gravestone.
Yep, absolutely.
So that's behind because she's dead.
And it's also symbolizing the tree, right? The tree next to the camellia, right? Like, this is how all this is arranged.
It's a grave.
Mm-hmm. Yep. And there's also a little bit of the sense of Yosho and Haruna standing next to the tree as well, if you want to go that far. But yeah, no, absolutely. She's done. It's over. And then we get this, frankly, very sad image of the tree just cracked in half.
Yep.
That is not a pretty image. It is just torn. There's this ugly gash in the tree. Because that's, he had to do that. And then we do see Haruna, as you mentioned. We do see her sort of force ghost appear there to indicate that she's not alive. And then we get the slightly questionable, follow-on to that, where he also remembers his other wife as a young child. But we're not going to think too hard about that one.
Yeah. Well, I wonder with the death
moving right along.
Yeah, exactly. With the death of the grave camellia, Tenchi's grandfather says he planted camellias everywhere. He's Johnny Camellia Tree. He just planted them everywhere. When she appears in the camellia at the end, the camellia is dead.
Yeah,
he's split it down. That's done. I wonder if she is able to appear by some latent power that's in the other camellia. So as much as Washu sets up like a 5-point power generator to do things, whether the camellias in some very small extent provide just enough power for her to not be just zip gone.
And
don't know.
Not to be too sad, but also this is Yosho seeing all this. We don't know if Yosho's just imagining it.
Oh, yeah, that could be too.
It could just be that he's remembering his past wives, and that's all.
Oh, that's terribly sad.
That could be it.
And terribly creepy for the one.
Yeah, moving right along. I hear ya. And so we get this. We have to have the denouement with everybody happily, standing around doing a
cooking
thing.
yams.
Cooking yams.
Or sweet potatoes, sorry.
Yeah. And of course, Asami is the one who knows when they're done. But then we get this final sequence, which again I think a lot of fans were kind of waiting for, where it's just the two of them, right? Like it's Ryoko and Ayeka together again, and it's very clear like this is it. That these are the two that have kind of finally synchronized. And again, Tenchi hasn't chosen in an explicit sense, but it's very clear that this is how it's synchronized.
The affection is clear.
Yeah.
And he's the silence is comfortable. There is no distractions. Right. They're just happy to be with each other, which is in direct contrast to. Should I talk about the end of Tenchi in Tokyo?
Will we get to the Tenchi in Tokyo?
Should I bring that up? No, you know what?
Man.
No. For people chatting, I'm sorry. Strike that.
Are we watching Tenchi in Tokyo?
Well, it's about 26 episodes.
Well, no, I mean, for a review, are we watching it?
But you're asking me if you want me to watch Tenchi.
For a review, not just for the enjoyment of watching it. That's
for any reason. I would totally be up for that. I would probably I'd probably have us go back and watch some other things first, just for kind of context. But yeah, certainly. So
if it shows up on the roster, then why don't we save that discussion for that time?
To Steve's point, the ending of Tenchi in Tokyo is a very interesting contrast to this ending. Just in terms of where that story goes and kind of how it all ends up.
Tenchi decides to become a celibate Shinto priest, and he wanders off into the woods. Oh, brilliant!
Sure. Yes.
Yeah.
You want to believe that? Go for it.
By the end of I, Tenchi Moyo, I'm sure he's ready to do that. But anyway, yeah, and then we get this slightly abrupt ending of the two of them sort of standing there, and then just credits. And I had completely forgotten that we get this beautiful end credit song. I actually have the soundtrack because I love all the music in this. And then we get this end credit sequence, which is all moments from the Tenchi TV series, Tenchi Universe.
Right.
And it's all the moments between Tenchi and Ryoko in that, and how he finds Ryoko and all that kind of stuff. Including, and I don't know if I'll be able to find it. There it is. Anyone who's seen Tenchi Universe remembers this moment in Tenchi Universe of Ryoko eating, which again reminds us of how far Ryoko will go for Tenchi. You know, and it's like, yeah, like this all comes together. And again, to be clear, if you think Tenchi belongs with somebody else, that is totally understandable. This is one timeline. This is one direction to take. I'm not saying that, you know, other approaches are necessarily wrong, but I just love how they
Team Ayeka, Team Ryoko.
Yeah. Here's the Twilight thing here.
Exactly, yes. You know, much less the arguments for some of the other girls.
Yeah, what happened to Team Sasami?
Yeah.
Team Washu?
In fairness, you know...
you need to...
wait 6 years. Wait 8 years. But, you know, Sasami is definitely, you know, the least crazy of them all, right? You know?
In her own special way.
Exactly. Although, well, that's a whole other thing.
Well, isn't in Tenchi Moyo the OVA where Washu stops being little Washu?
Yeah, absolutely.
That's right. And she becomes adult Washu?
Yeah. Remember... Ryoko,
as in appearance, not just...
Yes.
Not just,
remember, Ryoko is her daughter.
Yeah.
So yeah, you see Washu.
I'm looking at John's face. Wait, what?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So okay, I mean, we'll get to it. I think we see this as OVA too.
Yeah.
Washu has intentionally the body of a child. She has taken on that form very much for a reason. She is an adult. But there are whole reasons behind all that.
Okay, I thought she was just like any number of anime where it's like, oh, look at the 10-year-old. Oh, no, I'm 25. I'm a teacher. So that's Tenchi Forever. And yeah, like I said, just a remarkable little film, I think. Any final thoughts from you guys? I've enjoyed watching
having watched this for third time?
Good.
Third time? It wasn't, it's one of those things where I didn't really discover anything new so much as it was watching something that was like, you know, watching a movie you haven't seen in a long time that you really enjoyed, and it's just kind of comfortable and it's fun, and you know, you get it, you understand it, and it's just it fits in and makes you think about other things. Like, it actually makes me want to go back and pull out the Tenchi Universe and watch that. If for nothing else than the end credits, like that surprising. I actually no, I take it back. This is the first time I actually watched the end credits scenes for the first time, because normally I don't. Pre-MCU, we just didn't do those things. Yeah. You know, now that we watched the Marvel Cinematic Universe, we are now trained to go, wait a minute, there might be something at the end. So now I actually, you know, wait and watch it and watch the whole thing. And but yeah, it is the Tenchi movies are generally speaking very different from the TV shows and the OVAs. Yeah. Intentionally, but this one is very different from all of them, and to me, and just because of the tone and the lack of action, and that this is a love story. Yeah. Not quite, again, it's not about Tenchi in being in love.
Exactly.
Yep. I found it very watchable, but again, as I've indicated, there's like parts that would have been helpful.
Yeah.
To have been plugged into, to have like sort of oriented the movie and time and space. So, but still very watchable. I enjoyed it.
Yeah. This is one of the other problems with Tenchi is that not only are there multiple interrelated pieces, they don't always intermesh very well. So sometimes deferring to something, but also like I'm not so sure that the staff even remembers all the little details. Like, oh, that connects to this thing, but that was because of this. Oh yeah. Oh well.
And then there's
film's already in the can.
Cool. So we'll be back in just a few minutes. Take a quick break, and we will talk about the anime news and other things going on. So we will see you in a moment.
See you in a bit.
Hello, everyone. We are back from our break, here to talk about various anime stuff. How have your weeks been? What you been up to?
Packing.
Yeah.
Packing stuff.
You got a trip.
Yeah. Also, I have been making rice like a maniac.
Yeah.
For weeks since the onsen trip.
Yeah.
And I, like a smart person, not only have I watched all of this is your, machine and how it works, and these are, the wonderful features of it, YouTube videos. I also started watching the things that are like, hey, it doesn't just do rice.
Oh.
Nice.
So honestly, it escapes me at the moment whose YouTube channel it was, but they were using the rice cooker, and they made clam rice.
Oh.
So taking the rice, wash the rice, take, clams, chop them up, ginger, like diced up, finely diced, carrot, soy sauce, and salt. And you throw it all together in the rice cooker, shut the lid, and then let it do the cycle. And then when it's done, pop it, mix, done. Wow. So sitting down in the rice cooker right now, I have baby clams, white lump crab meat, and baby Bella mushrooms.
I'll be right over.
Yeah, coming.
It'll
take me a few hours, so you're gonna have to make a new batch. So, but I'm on my way.
I'm glad I didn't put, because I sort of, I'm obviously loosely basing it on what they were doing for a recipe. I put some soy sauce in. Mm-hmm. I also threw in a little bit of fish sauce, Vietnamese fish sauce.
Oh,
but I didn't throw enough soy sauce to make it salty.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
So that it's at this perfect like flavor, but I can add soy sauce to it on the individual servings to get it the right saltiness.
Yeah, soy sauce can really overpower a dish.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that's smart.
So it's right at that point where it's like, this is now serve, and then you as the guest can season it to your liking. But oh my goodness, it just the whole
really
kitchen smells like seafood and cooked mushrooms instead.
Nice. Nice. So
And anime.
And
Genshin Impact.
Genshin Impact.
Because I have got a lot
someday. Someday that'll be my new addiction.
Right.
And apparently it appears that I have to actually purchase a new a new rice cooker. Because that just sounds too good not to do.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can't wait to start delving into other kooky stuff.
Yeah.
I've already made hard-boiled eggs in it.
Oh, interesting.
Because I mean, literally, I'm like, it's boiling water. Why couldn't I just take, 3 cups of rice, fill the water up to the 3-cup line, and then take 4 eggs, and just stick them in the water?
Yeah, wash them. But
perfectly boiled, hard-boiled eggs.
Wow.
Perfectly. Because I guess once the water's off of it and the egg is not sitting in the water, the rice itself is hot enough. So by the time you get to the end of the normal rice cooking cycle, it is perfectly hard-boiled. They're not over hard-boiled. They're not soft-boiled. They're perfect. I'm like,
that's what Brent's doing tomorrow.
Wow. Nice.
Buying a rice cooker?
Nice.
Oh, I have a rice cooker, but
hard-boiled eggs.
Yeah, it's very small. It's one of the little,
Which for what my 10-cupper, I did 4 eggs perfectly.
Okay.
So I have not tried 1. I've not tried 8.
Yeah, this is a 4-cup, I think, rice cooker. It's
so probably 2 eggs would be.
Maybe. We'll find out. I will very gladly go, make multiple sets of rice to figure that out.
I couldn't believe it because I like anything the camping stuff that I do, I experiment with stuff.
Yeah.
It's like take flour and throw water in it, and then throw some honey in it, and then try cooking it over a campfire. Does it equal bread? No, it doesn't. Because you don't have any yeast, and you don't have time for wild yeast to do its thing. So you end up with like this chunk of a puck of a biscuit thing, but it fills you up.
Right.
But
wow, that sounds awesome. No, I'm gonna have to go to Lot Plaza and buy myself a rice cooker down into the lower level and
find yourself an H Mart.
That Zojirushi, man, the set and forget. As much fun as it is to it's not rocket science. You can boil water and boil rice, but the other day as I'm just making regular rice run, I was taking the dogs for a walk, so I put the water in, washed the rice, did everything, hit the button, did everything else the rest of the day. Lunchtime came, I'm like, open the thing up, I'm like, look at all that rice. I wasn't standing there going, did I burn it? Oh, the bottom looks like a little weird.
You're inspiring me because my rice cooker is older and a lot of the nonstick has scratched off.
Oh yeah.
And I've just realized if I leave the rice in there for a while, it starts to burn, even on the warm setting.
Yeah.
And it's funny, isn't it, how something works for a long time. You keep on using it, and then you don't realize how much the experience is degraded.
Yeah.
Until you think about it, and I'm like, I think it might now be time where if I can cook, and as soon as I hear the click, go out there, get the rice out, it's perfect. But anything else,
yeah, the Zojirushi, once it automatically stops, it goes to warm. You can hit the extended warm, which will keep it. I think regular warm it does I think it's 8 hours or 10 hours. Wow. Extended warm is upwards of 24 hours. Wow. And because of the way that it's sealed with the lid, it keeps the moisture contained so well that Yeah, it doesn't burn. It doesn't get like funky. It's like
the Japanese are really good at making rice.
Yes, it's like people who make rice forever and ever know how to make rice. I know.
Who would have thought? Who would have thought that people who grew rice for centuries and actually made it a currency would actually know how to make a thing that would cook it perfectly?
Strange.
I honestly thought they were really good at baguettes, but what do I know?
Exactly. Yeah.
Well, I have been. What have I been doing? Well, I've been doing a couple things. I've been pulling out my Yoko Kanno music stuff and going over that and writing up some notes and things.
Classic.
Yeah, and all the Cowboy Bebop stuff, the Ghost in the Shell albums, and of course everyone's favorite OST one for Cowboy Bebop and all that. Just listening to how good all that was, and it's just like. It's hard to not listen to, of course, Tank and not just want to get up and just and
or the real folk blues.
Or real folk blues, yeah.
Very
don't
danceable.
kick that to the
and because whenever I do that, of course, I have headphones on, so I stand up and I risk sending the thing flying and the mic going up into my head and just tragedy. But it's fun. And it actually, I don't know if you can hear the sirens. But
yeah.
They've already called the emergency services for when you do that, Steve.
Yeah. He's at it again. Look out for the mic.
Yes, officer. I can see a man in the window, and he looks like he's having a seizure. I'm not entirely sure.
He
might be dancing. I'm not
what
sure.
What street on this is this on? Is it on? Oh, that street. No, that's just Mr. Gerhard. Just don't. Yeah. Just he didn't take his meds today. Just don't worry about him.
He dances special.
It's Tank Day.
Yeah.
He's a private dancer. Oh, never mind. Oh my.
So I as I was listening to this music, I was like, you know what? I need to come up with another drink, otaku drink. Mm-hmm. And last one I made was a while ago was the otaku teeny. And
nice.
So I'm gonna make another one, and I still need to work on it, and I haven't made it yet. But it's the sexy tentacle.
Oh, yep. It's after 10.
Yeah. It's after 10.
It's after 10. I can make comments. No, yeah.
So it's
slimy but satisfying.
Kind of.
Oh, yeah.
Kind of. So it's we're about to get into that territory.
It goes down uncomfortably easy.
No.
It's basically it's Midori. Okay, it's going to be the big base ingredient.
It's green.
It's green. And initially, it came from the fact that I saw a recipe for a Midori sour, which is actually lime juice, Midori, and you use egg white, and when you shake it, it emulsifies. Okay. So it comes out thick. Green and foamy.
Green and foamy. Okay.
Oh,
all right. Well.
Even better.
Green and foamy and
wonderful.
Smooth, and you'll never realize that the tentacle was there.
Yeah. All right.
So it's going to be based off of Midori sour. I'm gonna, in making this, kind of fiddle around with the recipe and see.
Now, what's an otaku teeny consist of?
Otaku teeny is very simple. It's
you just drink gin and watch anime.
Well, it's funny because gin is included. Gin is included.
Yeah, there we go.
Okay. Gin is actually the main ingredients. There's actually a video on my channel that I plug my channel. Where
watch,
I actually
and subscribe.
Yep, that's right. But no, it's okay. So when you go to the lot markets or the H marts and you find those kind of like kiwi sodas, not the juice, but just sodas.
Yes.
And it has that weird little ball and it's crimped in the neck, and you have to go through a process to do
Ramune?
Ramune, yep.
Yeah, ramune.
Right. Mm-hmm.
So you use that, you get it chilled, you chill it.
Yep.
And I'm blanking on the parts, but basically it's 1.5 ounces of gin dry gin. So you want like London's Dry or something like that.
Beefeater.
Yeah, something like that. And so 1.5 in there, and then you pour in I believe like three. Yeah, so it's a kiwi flavored soda. You pour that in. Then you pour it in the gin. You give it a good stir. Pour it over ice, and you can either put a slice of kiwi on the bottom and let it soak up. So once you're done with the drink, you can just slurp the kiwi slice, or you can just use that as a garnish. And kind of dip it in there and
now, can you use anything like Bombay Sapphire, which is like a much
as long as it's dry
flavor. Well,
as long as
Sapphire is a little. It's got juniper and everything else, and really heavily flavored.
Yeah, so just use
we'll
gin.
take you out, Brent, and get you.
We'll get you there.
Do
just a very basic gin, honestly, just a dry gin, so you can taste the kiwi.
Aristocat. No.
But it's very, very green, like Midori as well, and it's very refreshing. This is actually more of the Otakotini is more of a summer drink.
Okay. Like a gin and tonic.
Like a gin and tonic, yeah.
And the sexy tentacle is
sexy. The sexy tentacle is whenever it decides to show up. It's an after dark drink.
Can you heat it up?
And I thought about that. Maybe.
As many animes have taught me, fire.
Yeah.
In addition to things will be good.
Not going there.
No.
Not going there.
All right, moving on.
So next week we will be showcasing the three of us at Brent's apartment, making him drinks and watching what happens.
I have a feeling Brent would be like, lock, and lock, go away.
There are a grand total of 2 bottles of alcohol in this house, and one is a little sampler size.
And you forget, I work in a beer wine store now.
Steve's going to show up with like a trunk full of like crazy crap. Like, oh no!
And look at what we have here. Brent just runs screaming into it all.
Weekend at Bernie's, Brent edition. Like, here we go.
So, for those who haven't been around a long time and don't understand, my parents were very good about introducing me, very slowly and carefully to alcohol.
Responsibly.
Very responsibly, exactly. And I have, it turns out, whatever is the smallest amount of alcohol tolerance possible in a human being, that is how much I have. I just cannot, I get tiny amounts of alcohol in me, and I start to feel it. So I will take little bits of alcohol here and there, but I'm just not a heavy drinker.
Right.
So the whole, let's mix up this cocktail. I'm like, that would be great, and I'll be able to drink a quarter of it before I just start, not being able to pay attention to things. So,
So you won't do what Motley Crue used to do with whiskey and mainline it?
No. Yeah.
With whiskey?
With whiskey.
Yeah. Also, my father's parents were alcoholic, which didn't help either.
Right.
Watching that, I'm like, no, don't really want that.
Yeah, when you have actual examples, it's not. It kind of scares you off of that.
Yeah. So, So, nothing against anyone who drinks. I totally understand responsible social drinking. Just one of those things. It's I don't indulge in it a lot for partly monetary reasons. It's like, let's order a beer. Great. Would you like 90% of it? I don't know. Pretty much. So anyway, so this week, I actually made a Chinese restaurant style sweet and sour chicken today.
Ooh.
Which it turns out.
With your air fryer.
No, actually, deep fat fried, because deep fat fried.
Actual lard?
No, just oil. But basically, it turns out the way to get that texture is you chop up. Well, first off, ideally you will soak the chicken in buttermilk first, but that will improve, but is not necessarily required. Chop up your chicken, coat them in cornstarch, and then coat them in whipped up egg.
Okay.
And then you drop that in the vat.
Into a fan. Okay.
And then cook that. And that gives you that like crispy exterior, but not like crunchy KFC style exterior.
Right.
That is the kind of the classic sweet and sour chicken style approach. So,
Nice.
Not hard. You just have to know to do cornstarch, egg, and then drop it. No, you don't need to deep fat fry it. It could just be thin layer of fat if you wanted to.
Right.
But that is an option. So that was my main cooking thing this week. Like I said, I have new students coming in this week, so I have not been all that busy on the on the cooking and other things this week. It's been like I am going to go to Chick-fil-A, or I am going to do more easy things this time around. So we'll see.
I'm going to go buy one single burger at a fast food outlet that will be enough calories to carry me for 2 days.
Oh man, I ordered a spicy chicken deluxe, a large fries, and a small chocolate shake at Chick-fil-A's, and that was, I think, 1,800 calories. Yeah. Fast food, ladies and gentlemen. Like, if you get, like, a regular sandwich and, like, chips and a diet drink, it's not bad at all. But you can absolutely get there very easily.
Certainly a lot of the burger chains, you can easily exceed your daily caloric intake.
Yeah, in one meal. It's pretty crazy.
Unless you adjust your expectations to that of a blue whale, in which case then it is a hell of a diet meal and you're starving to death every day.
Yeah.
I've made that adjustment many times.
I totally hear you. We've all been to conventions where, it's like, I just am going to have to eat whatever is here. Yeah, exactly.
At conventions, this would be $25. $25.
Yep.
And that would give you the amount. This would not prevent scurvy.
Nope.
Right. No. Okay. But it's leaves are involved somewhere, so it's technically a vegetable.
Yeah.
Right.
It's a vegetable. It counts.
It has ingredients that were once things, so that's perfectly natural.
Exactly.
Okay.
Everything in this event came from the earth somehow.
Exactly.
Right.
Just because it's been chemically altered doesn't mean the other chemicals didn't occur somehow in another form naturally.
Technically, everything's natural.
Exactly.
It all came from somehow, yeah.
Exactly. It didn't come from some magical third dimension.
Right.
I mean, no.
Right.
Color blue.
Hold on.
Color blue.
Yep.
And
can you taste the blue?
I can taste the blue. Not only can I taste the blue, but I can also taste the color one lake color.
Okay.
I kid you not. That's the last ingredient. One lake color, like number one lake color.
Huh.
What kind of lake has that color? And
They don't typically call them lakes; they call them runoff ponds.
Yeah.
right.
I mean,
Yeah, I think I got baptized in a pond like that. Anyway, yeah, it's.
just be careful of the gators.
Yeah. So I do have a story there. When I went down to
Gators or baptism? Which one? Or both?
But we'll do gators.
Okay.
Actually, it's after 10. I could do the other one. But with the gators, so I went down to. So as some folks know, I used to work for NASA for a little while as a contractor, and I got the chance to go down to Florida to Cape Canaveral.
And the moon.
Yeah, only. Went down with some other coworkers, and we went down, met with a coworker there, and we all piled into a Jeep to go from like one building to another. And as we piled in, the woman said, "Now, by the way, just so you know, as we're driving down, if you see any alligators, just don't approach them, don't do anything." And the coworker laughed. And said, "Yeah, alligators." And she's like, No, we will be driving right by alligators on the side of the road. Like, that is just a normal thing around here. Just don't antagonize them or do anything." She's like, "Really?" Yeah, just
poke the alligator.
Normal. Yeah. And we drove, sure enough, like, you drive down and there would be 20 feet of embankment and then a stream, and water. And so there would be alligators here and there, none of them really in the road. And apparently people would just say, "Oh, look, alligator! Let's stop and take pictures with the alligators." It's like,
the alligator's I was like, "I'm gonna eat you."
Exactly. Yeah.
You look tasty.
Here comes supper.
Yeah.
All right.
Yep.
Hey, get that Nikon out of my damn teeth, I tell you.
Why were gators such a big thing in 1980s cartoons? It seems like there was always a southern alligator in 1980s American cartoons.
It's true.
I don't know.
Because it was the height of the alligator fashion.
It's true. Yeah.
They had alligator bags and shoes and belts and all kinds of stuff, and that sort of peaked out as the endangered population recovered and alligator farming started to supply more reliably alligator skins.
Yeah, it makes sense. And the alligator lobby,
Exactly. There's an alligator in the lobby?
Yes.
Oh.
Careful. Run.
Just as long as it's not in the pool, that's all I care about.
Oh, I just realized something.
That alligators are reptiles. They're egg-laying reptiles.
This is not related at all. We're going to move on.
Oh, boy. Oh, come on!
Things come to mind which have nothing to do with anything.
Who knows where, as the movie says, who knows where thoughts come from? They just appear.
Exactly, yes.
Only the shadow knows.
Shadow knows. Y'all hear that?
I drink and watch the bartender anime.
And welcome back to the latest anime news for the week ending February 13th, 2021. See here. The streaming service Funimation is officially under a class action lawsuit that the website violates the Americans with Disabilities Act. Genesis Angelis, a legally blind person, filed the lawsuit claiming that Funimation has failed, quote, to design, construct, maintain, and operate its website to be fully accessible and, sorry, my computer decided to bounce everything all over the place.
Hey.
To be fully accessible and independently usable by Angelis and other blind or visually impaired people, end quote. The suit specifically refers to Funimation's shop website. The lawsuit states that Angelis, who used a screen reading software and uses that to navigate online, tried multiple times to make a purchase from the website but was denied a shopping experience, quote, similar to that of a sighted individual due to the website's lack of a variety of features and accommodations, which effectively barred her from being able to determine what specific products were offered for sale, end quote. Specifically, many features on the site lacked alt text, label elements, or individual titles, and there were many broken links, which I think we can all attest to. The lawsuit requests that Funimation retain a qualified consultant to assist them in complying with recommended accessibility guidelines, and requests an injunction to prohibit Funimation from violating the ADA, an injunction for Funimation to make its website in full compliance with the ADA, a declaration from Funimation that it operates its site, quote, in a manner that discriminates against the blind and which fails to provide access for persons with disabilities as required with the ADA, end quote, as well as compensation for damages and attorney and expert fees. ANN reached out to Funimation for a statement, but they declined to comment. And I must say, this is something that I've long wondered and thought about when it comes to, these things, is, ADA is the law. Like, American Disability Act is something you've got to comply with, and a lot of these websites just patently don't. And
that's very true. That's that's something I had to deal with in theater and stuff like that, making our shows ADA compliant. And yes, the blind do watch. I know it's kind of a weird thing to say. The blind do watch plays.
Right.
They listen to it. There's context there for them. There's ways to do it, and there's very interesting ways to do it. Actually, we do that. We did it for deaf people, and blind people. Of course, there's handicap seating, blah blah blah. As far as websites go, that's another thing that happens with the ADA, and the ADA is kind of interesting in that. The word discrimination is being used, but it's not really discrimination. What it is it's a lack of being accessible, as opposed to, we don't care that you're blind and you're
right.
coming to our site.
It's a lack of accommodation.
Right, and that's exactly what it is what this person is suing for is to have the accommodation to have these things. Because when you stop and think about it, we talk about in our anime discussions we did tonight about Japanese versus English subs, and or dubs, and that is important to listening. People have a preference to that.
Yeah.
And for a blind person, that's doubly important. I mean, there's other contextual clues that they'll be able to get through the things that they use online. I don't know if you guys have ever actually seen one of these or used them. What it is that if you're completely blind and you use your hands, it looks like a laptop. So you have the screen in front, but what your fingers go over, there's like a track about where your F key buttons would be, and the little braille comes up in there. So you just place your fingers there and you kind of move with the braille on there, and it pops up, and then you use the keyboard, the pad to scroll down and things like that. It gives you information. So there's a translation to that. So if they're not doing that, if the website is not connecting to that particular machine, which it should, and it's not a hard thing and that's the other part of it, is that this is not actually something where it would cost Funimation millions of dollars to switch over to do that. It's a very simple thing that they can buy very cheaply. And
I'm kind of surprised in this day and age that they hadn't already. Well, it's not something I often think of, but
it's honestly because people. Well, that's just it. People don't think about it. And so, like, when I go into a theater that isn't ADA compliant, I always have to explain why they have to do it. It's not that they're against people. They want the people to come in, as a matter of fact. It's beneficial. But they just don't understand that this is a thing.
Right.
This is something you have to do. So there's people at Fan Animation who are probably just going, oh crap, we could have been doing this whole time, and they're I'm willing to bet there's probably an accountant going there, we look how much money we're losing just by not tapping into this audience, by spending $5,000 or however much it is to put it up.
And on the website front, you don't even need the braille equipment. The screen readers have gotten so good now with announcing audio that basically you're going into the code and saying, okay, for any given visual element, here is the textual equivalent of that. Okay. That the screen reader will then see that and say, we'll just read out that text instead of reading out the image, if you will. Right. And so it just kind of goes through all the text in there, and then when it hits an image, it reads that out instead. And so it's one of those things where, again, like as Steve says, as a developer, if you don't think to put that in there, it's just not there, and the screen reader can't deal with it.
Right.
And the web being the web, you can build your website any way you want. There's no police sitting, over the developer's desk checking them. So yeah, I'm sure it's not quite oversight. It's something where nobody put in the time and thought to say, are we doing this or not? And it's really on the web developer's side to be able to say, hey, this is something we should do to comply with the law.
Right. Yeah.
Because
how if you're it's the internet. The internet, you can go to a site in Bangalore, India. You can go to a site in Congo. I mean, you're not going to have some sites that'll function, but Funimation's in conjunction with Sony, but they're still here. You know what I mean? It's like, so you can't say it's just an offshore. It's something that they don't deal with.
Right.
This is an onshore issue that's why I'm kind of surprised that wasn't already a part of the plan there. But.
Yeah. It also sounds like, and we've all used the Funimation site, and we all know how unique it is. It also feels like one of those things where it just, we want something that's flashy and cool and awesome and amazing and flashy and interesting, and we're just not thinking about anything else. We're not thinking about any other concerns for anything else. It's a common thing with web. You see it a lot also in fairness in lots of other websites, made for small businesses where they just don't think about it and it doesn't go in there.
Well, now that Funimation Sony has acquired Crunchyroll, it begs the question: is like, okay, if Funimation was crappy in their website, is Crunchyroll compliant?
Good question.
Well, here's the answer: probably not. What happened in DC with not DC, Rockville, Roundhouse Theater, I think it was. I could be wrong on that. But anyway, one of the local theaters, their oversight was not to have a performance that was for deaf people. So there's a way that you do that. You block off seats and you put a interpreter there, and you have to bring in the interpreter with a group of interpreters to go over the script to make sure that they know the script. They have to watch rehearsal. There's a big process that goes on.
Right.
And then on the day that the deaf people who rely on sign come in on that day, buying tickets specifically for that day. Well, not all theaters think to do that. So what happened was that there was a lawsuit, and it steamrolled. And basically, it's just one of those things where it's just like, of course they won. The deaf patrons won, and so now all the theaters in DC and outside of that it's radiating outside to the country before COVID. That if you don't want to get sued, this is what you have to do. Mm-hmm. So if Film Animation is getting sued for this, you can bet that Crunchyroll, that Sony, and that all these other guys are probably going, okay, website guy, or what's going on here? Are we compliant?
IT department, let's go.
Well, yeah, and I'm willing to bet that in the next couple of months, this lawsuit will begin and end here.
Yeah.
At Fun Animation, everyone's going to take their cue and just be safe, because, like I said, this is not an expensive fix. This is just something that goes on the website and it's done.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I'm sure this is also one of those things where, and again, because we know Funimation, it sounds like this isn't just I forgot a tag somewhere. This is kind of endemic throughout the site, as opposed to just a little thing here and there. So this is one of the, which I think is why they went out to Funimation, because it's egregious, right?
Right. Yeah.
I actually just did a check on Crunchyroll.com, and I couldn't get the service to actually connect to Crunchyroll.com, because Crunchyroll is apparently doing some very interesting things with caching stuff. So who knows? But anyway, yeah, we'll more news as it develops. Let's see here. Wit Studio and Netflix announced this week that the two have partnered up to teach some of the next generation of animators. Wit Studio is establishing the Wit Animator Academy this April, and Netflix is covering tuition costs and living expenses for 10 lucky students. Training at the new academy will be provided by animation school Sasayuri. Heading the academy will be lecturer Hitomi Tatano, who was an animation checker on Akira and most of Studio Ghibli's productions from the 90s and 2000s. The current staff at WIT, who've worked on Attack on Titan, Great Pretender, and other notable animations, will also help teach the students. The program will take place from April to September of 2021 and is open to young adults up to 25 years old who have at least completed high school. And good news to all the aspiring international animators, nationality does not matter as long as the applicant can speak daily conversational Japanese.
So I've been kicked down on several.
Yeah, they're not going to just cover that. Netflix is covering the 600,000 yen tuition fees, about $5,700 as well as providing 150,000 yen, or about $1,400 to 10 people who pass both WIT's initial screening and an interview with a Netflix producer. Those who successfully complete the program will be contracted for a year with WIT and Production IG to work on original anime for Netflix. So it is all moving over and folding into the whole Netflix idea.
So basically, we're gonna have a new crop of people, small crop of people, being paid $7.25 an hour to make anime.
Mm-hmm. Pretty much. At least it's Production IG, and Production IG apparently pays fairly well.
Oh, okay.
I don't remember. $14.50.
$14.50. As opposed to, and as soon as you read off the requirements of like conversational Japanese, okay, and I'm out. 25 up to 25 years of age. I'm like,
I can fake it on all fronts.
Definitely. Yeah. Konnichiwa.
Just write it down my arm. Ohio gozaimasu.
Yeah.
Boku
knowing my
wa
like
March-san. Hajime mashita. Shite. Mashite. Ha.
knowing my luck, I would be Donde está la biblioteca?
Damn it. I got it wrong again.
Damn it. Wrong
It's the
test.
Spanish arm, not the Japanese arm.
He seems confused. No, he's multilingual. We
Yeah,
like
yeah.
Spanish.
Yeah.
Let's get tacos. You're hired. Thanks. Your animation. Anna who?
Meanwhile, the 2021 Tokyo Anime Awards Festival was held this week, where excellence in animation achievements are acknowledged and awarded according to them. The event gives individual awards for staff members across the industry, as well as fan awards, and of course the prestigious Anime of the Year. Unsurprisingly, Demon Slayer and Violet Evergarden the movie had strong showings throughout the awards. Both the director and animator awards went to Demon Slayer, and the staff of the Violet Evergarden movie took the awards for screenplay and for art/color design, which was awarded posthumously to KyoAni's Mikiko Watanabe, who passed away in the arson attack in 2019. Watanabe, Kyoto Animation's art director, won the award posthumously last year as well. The final individual award for music went to Yuki Kajiura, who also receives the award for the second year, and has done the music for a great many favorite anime. This year they were Fate Stay Night Heaven's Feel, and Sword Art Online Alicization War of Underworld, but Kajiura has been doing anime music all the way back since at least Dot Hack Sign in 2000, or 1999, I think. Of course, the main event of the awards is Anime of the Year, which is awarded to both a TV anime and an anime film. The film award, as you may have guessed based on the other awards, actually went to Violet Evergarden, not Mugen Train.
Wow.
You might not have guessed the winner of TV Anime of the Year, though it is well deserved. Keep your hands off Ezoken.
Hell yeah.
For those of you who expected either of those awards to go to Demon Slayer, both the anime series and the Mugen Train film actually weren't eligible because the winners had to have premiered between October 1st, 2019 and September 30th, 2020, and both were just outside the range. Although we can probably guess what next year's anime film of the year will be.
Yeah.
Still, both winners very well deserved. The nominees were selected with votes from the general public, and winners then chosen by a range of anime industry professionals, which I think is a pretty interesting way of doing it. So, yeah, cool to see some awards.
Isoken.
Oh.
Thank you.
Yeah. Yeah.
I really expected and all these award moving trains.
Right.
And you know that's
I'm sure that's
Brett said that's the future.
Sure.
Yep.
And the massive group winning is Ishizoku Reviewers. No. Wow.
EVA 3.0 1.0 comes out like this month.
Maybe.
So
perhaps.
Wow.
That's like an echo in there.
So we'll see if that, affects anything as well. Wouldn't it be funny if fans only voted for EVA and Demon Slayer just didn't even make it in because we'd like to vote for it, but nobody voted for Demon Slayer.
No, that would be like an alternate universe kind of thing. There's no way in hell that's gonna happen.
I know.
I mean, it could be. You're right. In the world of Reddit, you could do a GameStop on it. Totally possible.
Yeah. But
in which case, then Ishizoku Reviewers.
hey,
It could be a Reddit thing.
Could be a thing.
Who knows?
No, I think if we learned from the Nebula Awards, they can just change the rules. Was it Nebula or Hugo's? Where
I don't know.
Hugo, I think.
They changed the rule in the middle of the award.
An online group pushed a ridiculous, trashy novel into the thing, and essentially gave it a massive number of votes. And the folks running it said, "Okay, that just doesn't count. We realized this was a trick, basically, and so we're just disqualifying it out of hand."
Which that's interesting because my anime list was last year or the year before. They sent a group mailing that said, "Listen, we're adjusting things so that all of their rating system." They had to adjust it because that was happening, that people were going in and were like, oh, and I'll just pick on Ishizoku Reviewers just for the hell of it. People were going in and just dogpiling on it, being like, oh, yeah, give it like a 10. And then they were flooding it with that. So a lot of these series that were fine, arguably fine, were suddenly and incredibly massively popular. When it's like, no, they weren't. They were actually sort of jazzed up by like people trying this little underground trick, and so they reset it and adjusted all the reviews again. I'm like, gotcha. Okay,
it happens.
I see.
Yep. Yeah. Gotta watch out for those tricksy people on the internet.
Darn Reddit.
Also this week, exactly. Articles that we may not talk about, but we might. So feel free to interrupt me if you hear something that interests you. We'll be going a little fast this week. Koei Tecmo Games revealed yesterday that Gust's Blue Reflection Magical Girl role-playing game is inspired a TV anime adaptation entitled Blue Reflection Ray, premiering in April. Tokyo-based game and character design company Ando announced the original web anime AICICE of Unusual Power ESPN High School Detective. I have no idea. Which began streaming today on YouTube. With new episodes come every Saturday. San X, the company known for Rila Kuma, Sumiko Garashi, and other popular character franchises, announced this week it's introducing a new series of characters that will star in their own October TV anime. The new mascots are called Chicken Dancers, and including a character called Hone Chicken, or Hone Chicken. The previous director of Agretsuko will be directing that anime at FanWorks.
That'll be interesting.
Yeah. Singer Masayoshi Oishi, who's performed theme songs for a great number of anime, including Monthly Girls Nozaki-kun, Overlord, SSSS Gridman, and others, revealed on his Twitter account this week that he's in the process of creating and producing an anime. That's all we know. Although there is a key visual. YouTube anime production and distribution company Plot announced the winner of its first New Generation YouTube Manga Award this week, and the winning submission will receive a one-shot YouTube anime adaptation. The winner will also get a 1 million yen cash prize. It's about $9,500 along with some goods. The winning submission from Keita Uehara is called Anti-Hero Generations. Voice actresses Megumi Haas and Maria Issei, who starred together in 2011's Hunter x Hunter, both made cryptic posts this week saying they were recording for a certain project. Just saying.
Are you Super Saiyan?
Yeah. 86-year-old TV and voice actor Shuichiro Moriyama passed away this week due to pneumonia. He was the voice of the main character in Porco Rosso, as well as a number of other anime works. Manga artist duo Peach Pit is creating a new short story in the Shugo Chara franchise that they created. This sounds like it will be a manga in Kodansha's Nakayoshi magazine, celebrating the duo's 20th anniversary.
Rosen Maiden. Oh, and Dear S.
Yes, they created Rosen Maiden and Dear S, as well as Shugo Chara. This week brings some good news to anime music fans. A number of soundtracks from prolific composer Hiroyuki Sawano are now available digitally. He worked on Kill Kill, I'll Know Zero, Blue Exorcist, Seven Deadly Sins, and Promare, among others. Finally, this year would have been the 99th anniversary of Gegege no Kitaro creator Shigeru Mizuki, and his hometown of Sakai Minato City, in Tottori Prefecture is yet again holding a special event to celebrate his birthday, as they have every year, featuring voice actors and musical guests from the franchise, plus big announcements for the future.
That's fun.
Absolutely. I mean, that just sounds fun. Like, good big old celebration of a wonderful, fun franchise. Yeah.
Which I enjoyed the reboot that they did of Kitaro.
Yeah.
Gosh, what is it? It's been like 2 years ago now, and it's still running.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I think I got somewhere into like the 30 episodes, maybe 40 episodes, and I'm like, I'm gonna have to put that to the side for a minute here and move on to some other stuff. I swear I saw I swear I saw an article or something announcement that said singer for Cruel Angel's Thesis. I don't know who it was, but it passed away. It was somebody who's older as well. And I'm like, I don't know who sang it in what version. You know what I mean? Was it a singer for Cruel Angel's Thesis from a movie, or was it from the TV shows, or what? But I saw that announcement, and I thought to make a note of it, and I didn't, like usual.
Yeah. For what it's worth, the new Kitaro anime has ended. Ended in March of 2020 at episode 97.
I got a lot to watch. So much to watch.
I thought the exact same thing. I was like, is that still going? My gosh! Last I checked.
Well, as far as Cruel Angel Thesis goes, here in Baltimore, once everyone gets their vaccines and COVID is lifted, pretty much you will have a 50% chance of any sushi joint here in the city, you're going to hear that song.
Cruel Angel Thesis.
Yeah. It's just very disconcerting when you're eating your sushi, you hear that coming on, and you're just like, oh god.
Well, I told you guys before. Went to Raleigh. Went to their Natsu Matsuri, their summer festival there on the North Carolina State Fairgrounds, and they have a whole festival stage. It's in a big warehouse kind of thing, getting food, doing stuff, coming back to sit down and eat. And they just have a live choir and a woman singing Cruel Angel's Thesis right there. And I'm like trying not to fall over going, running back to my friends. I'm like, oh my God, this is so
cool. It is very odd seeing footage of the Japanese Navy marching band playing Cruel Angel's Thesis on parade.
Oh, that's awesome.
Just, you chose that one. Okay. All right. Fair enough. Like, they do Yamato, which makes sense.
Yeah. But, I like to see nerds in uniforms. That works for me.
Well, Townsend University here in Maryland, their marching band actually played Tank at the Macy's Days Parade a few years ago.
Oh, cool.
As they were marching down. Yeah.
Nice.
Musical nerds.
Yeah.
One of my favorite online things was seeing I think it was on IRC a long time ago. I just saw a reference to it.
IRC. Does anybody know what that is?
Yeah. Chat. It's an old chat thing. Saying, oh gosh. Oh my gosh. Somebody is singing an anime theme song on America's Got Talent. They're actually singing an anime theme song on America's Got Talent. What is it? They're singing the end theme to Evangelion.
Oh my god.
Folks are like, that's a jazz standard. Sorry. Fly Me to the Moon is long before Evangelion.
God.
Oh goodness. Yeah. There's a lot of classic singers who have done Fly Me to the Moon who are rolling in their graves right now. Like, hey.
Oh, wow.
My send-up of that was much better than this anime.
Exactly. Fly me to the moon. Cool. Yeah, that's all the anime that fits, all the news that fits this week.
Nice.
Wow.
I'm going to talk a bit about something I like.
Ooh.
If I can
Tenchi?
Pull it up. Actually.
Tenchi.
You say that. And you're right.
I'm right.
Pretty much right. But I need to change the title because that's not
Pretty Sammy.
Anymore.
Yep.
JJ, that's scary. It is one of them.
The mind worm that we installed tells us all.
Welcome to Brent's Anime Review Corner, where I talk about anime. Welcome to Brent's Anime Review Corner, where I talk about anime and recommend it to you. What I'm talking about today is Magical Project S. This is an anime series in the Tenchi franchise, made when Tenchi was kind of at its height, and as a kind of a remake of an OVA they made, absolutely having a lot of fun with magical girls and doing ridiculous things with the magical girl concept. Pretty Sammy is a magical girl who fights Bill Gates. That gives you an idea of the kind of overall tone. So that was, I think, a 4-episode OVA. Fun, ridiculous. And then they announced a 26-episode TV series, which was released over here as Magical Project S, because Pretty Sammy utterly failed in the in the DVD sales, and literally, apparently, whoever had this at the time, I guess it was Jenny on, was told, do not ever send us anything with Pretty Sammy on the cover because we will not order it. So they changed the name to Magical Project S when they released the TV series.
Oh, wow.
Understandably. And this is a reboot. So it is several Tenchi characters in a Magical Girl storyline. And all you need to do is go online and search up the Magical Project S opening TV opening theme to get an idea of the overall tone of this show. It is the lightest of light. It is cotton candy. It is silly. It is goofy. It is every Magical Girl trope all in there, done as this light, fun comedy, or so it would seem. Because this is a wonderful, light, goofy comedy. I'm going to see if I can find the clip in here where Sasami is actually turned into a magical girl. There's a lot of plot in the beginning of it, oddly enough. But she is given the magical girl thing, and yes, Sasami, and yes, Mihoshi is her teacher. That's a whole thing. And I do believe there's a moment where she does reference the three-way relationship between the knight, the demon, and the princess.
That's the only story she knows.
It's the only story she knows. So eventually, Sasami is given her baton. She is given her. She does the whole transformation sequence. She looks at herself and then offers the whole thing back. I'll see if I can find the moment. Yeah, and she literally offers it back and says, "I don't want this. I look stupid in this outfit." It's like
awesome.
Actually, yeah. And so it is very much this goofy light send up of this. Except Sasami has her best friend Misao, who she spends a lot of time with, goes home with, and Misao is this very shy girl. And so you get to see Sasami go home to her mother, who owns this record store, the CD store, and they chat all the time and have this great relationship. Misao goes home to an empty apartment. And she realizes, and she tries to open the door and it's locked, so she takes out the key, opens it, comes in, listens to the
answering machine.
The answering machine, and there's a line in here, same old message. She's a latchkey kid. And the camera angles are different, the color is different. Suddenly, this is a drama. Whereupon, evil magical girl character shows up. And we get a very different tone. Like, Misao runs to the door to try to leave, and the other woman comes in and, like, no. And we get this very uncomfortable scene where she is basically mind-controlled into being the evil magical girl. Ooh. This is episode 1. Yeah, this is interesting. So, Magical Project S is a story about how Sasami turns into Pretty Sammy, Misao turns into Pixie Misa against her will without knowing it. She gets sort of mind wiped every time. And if Misao ever realizes what's going on, she's going to realize that she has been harassing and hurting her best friend for the entire time.
Damn.
And guess what happens? So, yeah.
I've opened a churros stand.
You know, people talk about Madoka Magica being like the first Magical Girl series to do anything dark with Magical Girl. Heck no. There have been shows exploring that in Magical Girl in lots of different ways. And what I love about Magical Project S is that, and by the way, this is all like back in the box, back in the, you know, you would know this if you search about any of this online.
Does anybody die?
Moving on, most of the it's not that kind of a show. In fairness, it's not that kind of a show.
Okay. Not Madoka-ish.
It's not Madoka-ish. But I will. Okay, so this is tonally, for the vast majority of this, a very goofy, lighthearted, magical girl thing.
Till it isn't.
And then there are like, and I'm telling you this because it's important to know, there are like 3 episodes of this where Misao realizes what's happened, and literally locks herself away in a cocoon, and is catatonic. And Sasami has to like try to get to her. It actually like deals with the psychological after effects of what she's gone through. Again, I mean, again, look at the tone of the show. What I love about it is that it is absolutely a positive, upbeat show, but it is willing to dip into these serious themes because that is what they've set up in their storyline. That this is a thing that these characters will have to deal with at some point. And they deal with it, and then the story moves on, and we move on. So it never feels overwhelming. It never feels dark. It never feels like, oh my gosh, what's ever going to happen? But they actually do deal with these things. What I love about it, it's one of those things that Tenchi does very, very well, that whole franchise. So if you like Magical Girl, this is very much a Magical Girl series. If you like series that do kind of execute on some of those darker themes a little bit, and does explore some more serious moments for the characters, you will absolutely get this. And if you're interested in Tenchi Muyo, a lot of Tenchi characters do show up in the show now and again. It starts with just a few of them, but then eventually you do get, I'll say, a variety of Tenchi characters throughout the course of the show, just to give you a little idea. So I really enjoyed Magical Project S. There was a lot to it, while also being just wildly entertaining all the way through. That is Magical Project S. Hope you enjoy.
Wow. As long as it doesn't go to like episode 3 and people start losing their heads, then no.
It's not that kind of a dark. It's just, it's just it's serious for a while.
I'm just, pretty Sammy meets Higurashi. I mean,
that's not something I can. I can't dial in on that.
I will say, in the Pretty Sammy OVA, there's a great moment where there's a side story. I think this is Pretty Sammy OVA, where so in Pretty Sammy OVA, Tenchi is Sasami's older brother, and Ryoko and Ayeka are classmates of Tenchi. No magical powers, no nothing. They're all just regular humans.
Huh.
So in both the OVA and the TV series, Sasami is the only one with magical powers. Everyone else is an alternate universe, I think. Anyway, in the OVA, at one point, Ryoko literally physically kidnaps Tenchi, and like takes him away to a deserted island somewhere, and we just keep cutting from like the story to like the two of them, occasionally. And there's this one moment where we cut back to them. Tenchi is on one side of a campfire, literally like a rope wrapped around his body.
Okay.
And Ryoko's, on the other side of him wearing, I forget what it is, but it's a classic sort of Ryoko outfit. Revealing but not too daring. And so she stands up.
Tenchi after dark.
Yes.
Exactly.
And so she stands up and says, well, Tenchi, we're finally alone. And Tenchi goes something like, Ryoko, just stop it. Just let me go. Like, we know this isn't going to go anywhere, whatever. And Ryoko goes up and goes, you're so cute when you struggle.
Oh, wow.
And we cut away. Nothing ever happens, right? It's all very goofy. But it's just like, there's a line for you.
Oh, my. Delivered by a different character would be that would be really disturbing.
Very, very different. But I didn't mention this I did briefly. It is one of the remarkable things about Magical Project S is that like Misao's relationship with that woman is very creepy. Like they do not shy away from the fact that she is being like mind controlled in a way that is very much an adult manipulating a child. And it's brief, but it's just like, ooh, this is not good. And so, that gets dealt with eventually, right? It all comes around. But I do appreciate the fact that they're like, we're not going to let ourselves get away with this. Like, this is a plot point that has to happen because Misao wouldn't do this naturally. And we're going to show that this is not something that we just do. Like this is really, really creepy and bad, and we're going to show that to the audience. But yeah, Love that show.
Well,
Love that
it's
show.
nice from your description that it doesn't dwell
No.
on that because,
Very
I'm
brief.
not a Magical Girl fan,
Mm-hmm.
but I do enjoy some of the Magical Girl shows that are not just, all about swinging the baton around and transformation and cupcakes and happiness and pink things. Where it delves into, hey, what happens when a human being has to deal with something that's so outre that they're not mentally capable of really grasping. It's like, okay, go defeat that thing. It's like, well, that thing might be a person.
Yeah.
And you defeat them. It's not all cupcakes and smiles. Sometimes you kill them. And you do that enough times, do you stop having a magical girl and do you have a deeply psychologically scarred soldier?
Right.
So it's not as fun. It's like I've watched enough bits and pieces of ones where they start to delve into that I have not yet crossed the Rubicon.
Yeah.
Close on that. I've watched enough of a number of series where it's really starts to get very, very gritty, and I'm not bouncing off it, but I'm not in a place to finish that to just watch how psychologically that works. And it's just like, wow, okay.
Well, and so two things about that. A, I have difficulties with that because on the one hand, Magical Girl are one of the few female empowerment shows for young girls in Japan and in Japanese culture. But also because it's just not the way Magical Girl, Magical Girl is a very artificial construct anyway. So presenting that as having these, deep psychological motivations, it's like, you can certainly go there and do that, but it doesn't necessarily follow from the concept that would be the result of it. So I'm like, interesting to explore, but not kind of like, well, I'm telling a serious story in this. It's not meant to be serious, right? So,
Well, it's always nice at the end of the day if you can have, sort of the I've defeated you. Oh, you're terrible. I'm just going to go away. It's like, yes, there are places and times like my favorite lunchtime watching shows. There's places and times for that where you get a little bit of drama, you get a little bit of comedy, and at the end of the day, everybody walks away, maybe a scraped knee. It's not a big deal. And then there's the other ones where it's like you got to sit down and get ready.
Yeah.
As Steve would say, take a shot. Whiskey, sit down, take a shot.
Or you have
and then cope with it, know?
Or you have the shows like Princess Tutu, where she is very much negotiating with these people to change their minds.
Yeah.
But like you say, she's not killing anybody. She's not defeating people. It's more, you have the wrong perspective on this. But then there is still consequences.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, there's always consequences. We know that.
Exactly. Well, it depends on the franchise, right? I don't think there are many consequences in Shugochara.
I've only seen the beginning of Shugochara where the kid's trying to take her magical eggs, and I'm like, I don't understand what's going on here, so I was just going to walk away.
It's very deep and serious. It's very complicated and psychological.
Magical pixie eggs that hatch.
It's like Ghost in the Shell. There's lots of layers. It's very, very deep. Yeah.
I would like to see someone tell me that there are lots of layers. I think, Brent, you should do a deep analysis.
I think so, too.
Tell me how that's deep.
Well, you see...
deep.
Not going to go there. No.
You see, it's deep. Thank you. End of discussion.
No, I had symbols, but they're not appropriate.
Oh, my.
Anyway...
I think I'm reading that vibe, and I think that would be funny as hell. But moving away,
the eggs symbolize a young girl's moving on. Anyway,
that's already and when a man really loves a woman, what?
Yes.
Oh.
And when Ryoko really loves Tenchi.
That is correct, Matt. Sally the Witch is Sally the Witch is the first Magical Girl anime. There was actually a Magical Girl manga that came out first, but it was not adapted into an anime until after Sally came out. So again, kind of depends on how you count. But Sally the Witch is the first anime of a Magical Girl. The other problem is that Sally is just it's basically bewitched magic. She just goes and things. Boing. There's no transformation sequence. None of the typical things. The other one is Himitsu no Ribbon-chan, I think. was the first magical girl
Transformation sequence with a compact.
That is that, and I think that was yes, Himitu no Ako-chan, or the Secret of Ako-chan. She has a magical compact that she uses to transform into various
Professions.
anything she wishes, technically. With the enchantment Tekumaku Mayakon, Lemipus, Lulu.
I'm going to say that 12 times fast. Let's see how that goes.
Exactly. And yeah, she generally transformed into various women or herself in various adult, grown-up professions. So, yeah, no. This is 1969.
I'm a doctor. I'm a
exactly.
space pilot thing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I dance.
I dance? No.
No. It's funny because from what I've seen of it, they thread this nice needle where she transforms into a photographer, but it's kind of a child's idea of what a photographer is. So she's able to go around and do things, but she doesn't know how the industry works. So there's this fun little
because she doesn't know from Perfect Blue how a photo modeling
exactly. Yeah. I take pictures and I get paid.
Yeah,
honey, it's a lot more complex than that.
And she's in elementary school, so but they throw a nice needle between saying they're not presenting a realistic version of what this job is like day to day, but they're making it interesting enough for a child to go, oh, that looks like a fun thing to do, right?
I clean the grease traps at McDonald's. No, don't know what to do with that one.
That being too ridiculously unrealistic, apparently. Wow, and it's never been released. The anime's never been released in English, apparently. Like no sub, no dub, as far as I know.
Wow.
Very, very unfortunate. But yeah. Magical Girl, that was 1969, I think, was the anime, where Sally the Witch was 66.
Wow.
So it's been around for a while. Yeah.
It's time for a remake. It needs a refresh.
No, live action in 2012. Interesting. I did not know that.
Wow.
That would be interesting, now that I think about it.
That's a refresh.
Yeah.
Wow.
It wouldn't be hard because you have no transformation sequence. It's just, magical compact, and now you're a different person. Yeah, interesting.
Oh.
Saves on the budget, that's for sure. What?
Matt,
you looked at
technically, yes, that is true. I suppose.
Yes. Yeah, it is.
Perfect Blue is a magical girl movie. She
gone horribly wrong.
Rumi,
I guess she is transformed.
She does transform into it. Yeah. Sure, we'll go there.
And instead of using a compact, we use psychosis.
We use an ice pick. Yeah,
that
transforms us from just an average maniac to a murderer. What a transformation.
Well, and it's, you get things like Mawaro Penguindrome, which I've not seen much of, but there is a magical girl transformation in that, right? Like she is transforming into another person. But it's not, it's not a magical girl series in any of the other classic senses. So
I've watched enough of that to really love and respect the transformation sequence with all the things going on in it, and yet I have no idea what's going on.
Well, it is.
I know where it's going.
Yeah.
I get that part, but I'm just like, episode to episode, I was just like,
it's an Ikuhara show. You're not supposed to know where it's going.
Yeah. I'm supposed to let it wash over me. Like she's like, penguin super princess outfit. I'm like,
I never understood what Lesbian Bear Storm was doing, but I enjoyed it.
Yeah,
it got there.
You just sometimes have to ride the ride, and that's just the way it is.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Oh, and I haven't even tried Ikuhara's latest, the one with the kappa.
Sazarazama-san or what the heck it was or whatever it is.
Yeah.
I've got that on the list.
Weird.
I think Phil watched some of it and said, "Oh, it was really good." I'm like,
define good.
Yeah, to me, good is like Eurocamp, not on Bureau. Aizoken.
Yeah, there we go.
So I got to be again in the right place, the right mind to get that. You got to understand the goodness.
And it's the interesting thing about shows like that, like the Minoko Magicas, things where, like, I don't think I would want to do an Ikuhara anime all at once. But I don't know that I'd want to do it like episode by episode either. Right? Like, you don't want a long time between episodes because you want to remember and keep track of things. But then trying to do it like all in one day or all in a weekend or whatever, you'd just be a gibbering idiot by the end of it. So it's an interesting sort of middle ground there to try to.
Even kind of the light series. What makes the new season anime review go so well is we're doing it 5, 8, 9 hours, but it's each one is a different thing.
Yeah.
And it's like even shows I love, I really don't think I could sit down and watch all of Eurocamp the first season at a sitting.
Really? Interesting.
I'm going to watch probably about half.
Okay. Yeah,
and then I'm going to get up and I'm going to go eat something. I'm going to go over here. I'm going to do that. I'm going to do this. Then come back later, maybe watch half. Maybe the next day watch the other half.
Yeah,
but it's like there's very few and far between, even if it's really just light and fun, where you could just dedicate that really a big chunk of time to it without just a break to sort of unwind a little bit.
Yeah, my mind is convention trained because, excuse me, I do 4 episodes at a time, and that's enough. And that's enough for me. Well, and I get up and walk away and do the thing, and then maybe I'll come back and watch another 4 episodes.
And I've told you guys this. I'm DVD trained. You know, that 4 episodes on the DVD, like that's just the natural pace. Yeah.
And it has to be really special for me to sit down and like binge 26 episodes in a weekend. Yeah. And like I actually can't remember the last time I did for that length of time which anime I did that for. Yeah. But there's some.
There are ones where I want to.
Yeah.
But like the jobless whatever it is where the guy gets reincarnated. Yeah. Yeah. That one, I want to watch all of it right now. Mm-hmm. But I guarantee you, at the end of it, if you said, "Okay, let's sit down and let's dedicate 6 hours and watch this," I'd be like, "I can give you about 3, but I got you." I got to do this. I have to go adult for a while, so I can come back to it later. And I think that's where the sort of intersection is, like the ability to dedicate the time. Is against everything else in life you have to get done. Like
you are.
Well, that's very true.
Apparently not.
Apparently not. Yeah. Well, I mean, I want to do that with original Mobile Suit Gundam.
Yeah.
Is watch it from again and Macross and I want to do that, but it's just not
time.
I don't. I just don't. So I wind up watching 4 episodes at a time and hope to God that I come back to it with all the other stuff that's going on out there. Yeah. And then I get sucked into the ones that are just like, all right, I need to get through this anime. Ghost in the Shell is calling me, or Tenchi is calling me, and I get swept up in that, and then
it's also difficult when you're watching a show and like you're enjoying it, but then like you're also thinking, but is this as good as Princess Mononoke? I could also be watching something else that I know is amazing. And I get distracted that way too, where I'm like, okay, let me just do something else for a while.
Out of the block of time I have, do I dedicate it to just this, or do I go for like the big money prize, which is going to be this, and I don't have all that time?
And there are times when I will watch 4 episodes at a time just to find the one scene in a pile of garbage, just to have that one 30 to 59 second scene and just be like, okay, now I'm oh god, that was 3 hours.
Well, that was like the first episode of the Heaven's Design Team. where it's like I sat through the whole episode and I was like, okay, I'm mildly amused. And then the guy talks about how to make a snake by taking a horse and removing parts from it. And I'm like, okay, this is okay. Oh my God, that was brilliant. That is funny. Oh my goodness, that was wonderful. Okay, now we're back to the other stuff. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like they do that going forward. They do that every episode where it goes, it's nice, it's okay. And then they hit you with like a zinger and you're like, oh my God. And then they go off again and you're like.
And that's why I think I'm falling in love with all these different like 3 and 4 minute episodes of these series. You know, the convenience store one that I love, and my roommate's a dino, which is totally absurd, but it's only about 3 minutes.
Yeah,
and it's just
Gallon Dino.
Gallon Dino. It's just. Watch it. I mean, it's not going to improve your life by any stretch of the imagination.
Right.
It might even dumb you down a little bit. I'm not sure, but
it's a great leveler of the field.
Yeah, but it goes into territories that you're just like. At first, it's like cute, and then it gets a little funky and a little weird and a little weird, funny kind of thing, and then you get Mr. I'm in leather chaps and a leather hat, and I'm sitting in Gal's bathtub, and she comes in and she goes, "What are you doing here?" And he goes, "Nothing, taking a bath." And that's the episode. While Dino is trying to prevent her from finding his imaginary friend who's actually real in the bath. You just have to watch.
Okay.
Except John, as you put it, ride the ride.
Yeah.
Ride the ride, and when you get off the ride, you're gonna wonder where the hell am I?
Yeah. Why did I do that? But,
I had a very similar reaction with I can't understand what my husband is saying, which is about a woman who marries an otaku and just
an office lady.
Exactly. And about the and they have a very lovely relationship. But just his passion is just he talks about things. She's like, I have no idea what that is, and it's just very heartwarming. And we talked before about.
The cocktail one, who is the husband's a bartender?
Not that one. The Izakaya.
Yep.
Which is I think 15-minute episodes, which is exactly the right length.
Yeah.
Those little short ones can be a really fun ride.
Izakaya Nobu.
Mm-hmm.
Which that one is giving me ideas about places that might be necessary to visit to eat at in Tokyo.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Hopefully one of them will be a fugu establishment.
Go for it. You are welcome to do that.
Come on. Come on. When do you get a chance to have fugu?
Look. We'll slip Brent a little bit of gin in his Diet Coke. He won't notice.
See, this is the thing.
Get him drunk.
This is the thing that Steve, you would actually know, but most people don't know, is that by having a low alcohol tolerance, I am even better able to notice when somebody has slipped alcohol into a drink.
Parts per million detection.
Like, oh, this is alcoholic.
No. This is what I imagine would happen. I'd be like, haha, Brent will never know. And Brent will be like, you bastard.
Exactly.
You suck. I hate you.
Yeah.
Well, fugu's not alcohol.
True.
It's just deadly.
Exactly, yeah. Fugu is like, so here's the thing. It's really fun. You may get your arm chopped off, but it's fun. Nope. Thank you. Don't have to do that. Totally fine.
You only live once. It might be a short life, but it was something.
No. Hey, that's the other. When I went to Japan, I ate very little Japanese food because I was so worried about my stomach and getting an upset stomach that I went very safe. So the thing I'm actually looking forward to going to Japan is just eating Japanese food. I don't need fugu. Yeah. I just need yakitori and all the other stuff, and just experiencing all the normal Japanese food.
Yakisoba pan.
One of the
I did
best.
Have a pan, and that was amazing.
One of the best YouTube channels out there is Arden Films, Aden Films, Films. Aden, and this guy goes out and first of all, he has a backyard with a pond in it, and he cooks rare meat steaks out there. But the other thing that he does, and I'm not sure
in the pond.
No, well, no, in a grill next to the pond.
That would be rare. In the pond, in my mouth. Now I'm sick too.
But he also travels a lot, and he travels to Japan a lot, and so he has a lot of videos of eating at steak places or yakitori or out or markets teppanyaki, and he'll go in markets and give me the giant oyster, and you watch them make the whole oyster and the whole 9 yards. It's amazing.
This is
little YouTube.
Well, this is the other thing about Japan is I never saw a place that I would not want to eat at. Like there was no such thing as a bad restaurant, bad bar that I could see wherever I was. I would always go by and go, oh, that.
You would want to eat at the McDonald's?
Yes, I did multiple times. I had a dark meat chicken sandwich at McDonald's.
Oh, wow. What?
Yeah, they have a dark meat chicken sandwich at McDonald's. It was delicious.
What if they had that? What? Oh my God, the McDonald's a duck chicken
bun. I saw it was one. It was like Burger King or something, and it looked like pumpernickel.
Oh,
it was like squid ink dark black bun, and I'm like, give me.
Yeah.
Damn. I want to eat in a place where they ask us not to eat there because we don't speak Japanese.
That will probably happen, and that's okay.
I just still want to find the bar in Tokyo that I saw when one of those walking videos where the guy puts on has the camera on stick and walks around for an hour because it said Baltimore Jazz.
Oh wow, yeah, there we go.
And in Tokyo, and I'm just like, oh. You're just tempting me. You're just tempting me. Why? And it's one of those places where it's clearly like a teeny tiny bar where it's really just 4 people and some dude just hashing out, bad beer or whatever, and probably some good tunes in there. But
this is one of the things is that jazz culture in Japan, a lot of that spread through bars because a bar could install a really nice sound system that you couldn't necessarily afford to set up in your apartment. So folks would just go down to a bar or a pub or whatever. There's a famous one in Tokyo that has literally a wall of sound. Like one wall is just all speakers.
Wow.
And they've figured it all out. So if you're sitting in there, you are just awash in jazz.
Wow.
Nice.
It's been around for decades and decades. So it's one of the cool things is if you go to some of these jazz bars, you're going to get something that's been really tailored for that experience. It's not just, oh yeah, we have an iPod playing in the corner. No, this is a serious deal.
Yeah, I can just see the one bar just saying, it's called Tank. Why you call Tank? Because that's all we play.
Probably. Mm-hmm.
5 hours later, 3, 2, 1, Jesus.
You're not. You're here to listen to music until you're drunk. Then you're just here to drink.
Have you guys seen what's it called, James May in Japan?
Yes.
No.
JJ, you know who James May is?
Not a clue.
You know what Top Gear is?
Yes.
He's one of the presenters on Top Gear.
Oh, okay.
And so he did this Amazon original series where he went to Japan for 6 episodes. And there's an episode where he goes into he has a little translator thing which completely doesn't work. And
oh, wait a minute. I've seen those little translator things on ads and stuff where it's like, can I take your picture? It don't work? It's a lie? Oh.
Amazing. So he goes into one of these, again, 6-person bars, sits down.
The tiniest of izakayas.
Yeah. But normal size izakaya in some places. But yeah, and goes in and sits down. And he tries this for a little bit, doesn't really work, and people just start chatting, and he's obviously doing a narration over it, and he says, here's the thing, I spent 2 hours in this bar. They could barely speak English, I could not speak Japanese, and yet I felt completely comfortable. They did a great job of including me and doing cheers and all this kind of stuff. And we just had the best time. And I went through 2 or 3 beers, and I never would have anticipated that I would have been able to have any kind of fun experience there. But it totally worked. It was that experience. So that gave me a lot of hope for our experiences in Japan. That people are just gonna, and they interviewed some of the folks. They said this is the thing about bar culture though. Like this is what you're supposed to do, right? You're sitting in a chair with somebody else. You chat,
getting hammered.
Exactly, it's like, we don't care that you can't speak the language very well. Like, whatever.
Well, see, and this is what makes me wonder about the friend of mine who worked for Deutsche Bank, and they sent him to Tokyo to do some accounting things, and they sent him with a group. Yeah. And he had told me the story. He's like, "Oh, no, our guy who's the local office guy took us down to the bars and said, "Oh, you can't go there. Oh, you can't go to that one. Mm-hmm. Oh, they don't like foreigners there." Mm-hmm. So the question is, how much of that was reality, and how much of that was like whoever was helping them go along didn't want to deal with being like, what do you want? Okay, guys, that's what you want. Now I'm going to have to tell this guy what you want. And then we'll just go someplace where that's not as much of a hassle. And it's like,
And I think that's a lot of it. Also, it should be pointed out in this case, there were multiple video cameras there, right? So that probably changed it as well.
Yeah.
But apparently that, from what I understand, a lot of it is people, there are some places that avoid having foreigners there just because they can't give them good service.
Right.
So it's not like you're unwelcome on a racial level. It's more just like, you try to order a drink, I'm probably going to get it wrong. So let's just not even try. And that's, again, kind of one of those things where I'm like, cool. Like, I don't want to get bad service at a place. If you think you can't handle that, then it's fair dinkum. But yeah, I don't know.
Fair dinkum, you're pulling some Australian out.
Right. I cannot do accents. Don't ask me to do an accent.
That could be Brent's accents after dark. No.
Name it, I would give you probably the same accent for anything.
You like Peter Griffin with his "I'm John Wayne." I'm John Wayne at the first Thanksgiving, Pilgrim. Like, oh boy, here we go.
Professor Zenigata with the money on television. Look here at all of these bills. My goodness, what have I seen?
Acting tour de force. Brent, brilliant, bravo, sir.
I came here looking for Lupin, but I found a dastardly plot.
Oh my.
Gotta love it when actors are intentionally being bad actors. It's just fun.
Yeah, versus the ones that are really serious and are just
bad.
Heaven help them, they're just terrible.
Yeah. By the way, if you want to find out that, Crispin Freeman has a panel on voice acting, where he shows a clip of some of the worst acting ever in anime, and just kind of analyzes it and says, "Okay, why is this bad? What is making this bad?"
A terrible actor.
Well, the thing is, he says, let's not just say this is inherent. Let's try to figure out what factors are involved in making this such a bad read. And not all of it's on there. It's kind of a teaser.
Right.
It goes into, okay, what is the scene? What is this actor being asked to say? How does it fit it? How is he delivering those lines? It is really interesting to look at all the sort of mechanical pieces,
right,
of all the things going into that, because there are a lot of elements to it.
Well, I certainly would imagine if you were given a script and you weren't given like a great visual that you could sort of match what you're doing, that they're like, here's a box, here's a microphone, here's what you have to say.
Yeah.
Yeah, you don't have some kind of way to sort of gear it in. Yeah, you're going to have some very odd reading.
Yep. Absolutely. It's one of the problems, is that often it's like, okay, your name is Isamu, say these lines. All right, I guess.
Context? You're in a field.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, thanks.
Mm-hmm. It's on the screen. Just look at the screen. You can see what's on the screen. Do your lines.
No.
I'm in a field. Look at the ox. The ox is running at me. What's my motivation? You're running.
Oh, no, why am I
running?
Reading it. Keep reading it.
And the ox. Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
Well, and
I could easily see that. Oh, look, it's an ox. What do I do? Like, wow.
absolutely.
Such passion.
One of the interesting complexities too is that sometimes they deliberately won't tell the voice actor what's happening in the show because the character won't know that, and so they'll give them context, obviously, but not like, oh, and then in 5 chapters your character dies, right?
Oh, ow, yeah.
Right? Or something is going to happen to completely change your character. Like you want the kind of the rawness of that experience, so the actor is never thinking it. So yeah, it can be an interesting sort of middle ground, but you want to give them something.
So ghost stories.
Yeah. Well, Christopher Freeman talks about this, where he has a story. Have either of you guys seen Witch Hunter Robin?
Yes.
Okay.
I have not, but I've heard you talk about Witch Hunter Robin
Yeah.
before.
It's probably this story.
Okay.
So Steve, so Witch Hunter Robin is the story of these witch hunters, modern day, elite squad, and there's Crispin Freeman plays the head guy of the group, who is this very emotionally closed off guy, just very serious, just does not connect with anybody. I think the guy that was it Harmon plays NCIS, the head of NCIS guy. Kind of like that. Although he's a little bit more friendly, but very much that. And so he was cast as this guy, and was told, okay, you're gonna come in, 2 days later, and we'll do the part. And basically, all he knew is here's the guy's personality, here's his basic role in the series, and so forth. Boom. So Crispin was like, what is up with this guy? Like, why? I don't understand. And they just, didn't have the information. But they gave him the show. And so he watched, episode 1 and couldn't figure it out. Episode 2, couldn't figure it out. Ended up staying up until, 5 a.m. watching the entire series because finally, in, the last episode, they explain his damage. And so he comes in and he goes, okay, I get him now, so I can play him now,
Yeah.
Because I need to know that context so I know, is this, bizarre psychological trauma? Is it something from his childhood? Is it just personality? All of those things change the read very, in very important ways.
Yeah.
Yeah, and the character is very, very, very low tonal, and you actually kind of don't like him.
No, absolutely.
Yeah, you kind of don't like him.
Yeah.
Although Robin falls for him, right?
Of course.
If I remember correctly, yeah. Because women in anime always fall for the damaged guy.
Yep. Well, she's also 15, so
15. So, there's that.
She's not really paying that much attention to things. Yeah, it's What's neat? So, for those being like, what kind of show is this? What's cool about Witch Hunter Robin is that it was deliberately made to be like NCIS or a
investigative,
live action show. They actually patterned it off of live action crime drama shows. So the pacing, the shots, the music. They actually have the episode title fade in and out at the beginning of each episode, much like an American show. So it feels much more realistic in that way.
And there is an actual team. You have your hacker, you have your guy who goes out, you have your noob, which is Robin, comes in to help out and stuff. And then there's the usual kind of anime. Well, this is why she's here. This is why the witches exist, and so forth and so on.
So, kind of X-Files-ish.
Yeah, very X-Files-ish because they use witches to hunt witches.
Yeah.
And the selling point for the series for me was that the English dub had what's his name, Trigun, Vash the Stampede.
Oh yeah.
Do the hacker guy's voice.
Oh, funky.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, Christopher Freeman.
And
another famous voice actor playing the rich girl, as well as I recall.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's so it's very much kind of the cop show structure, but and the idea is witches exist, and witches have crazy supernatural powers. So and it tends to drive you insane. So you hear about crimes, and you hear that a house goes up in flames out of nowhere, and you're like,
So you investigate it. It's kind of like it's kind of like Psychopaths or claim war, where it's like just basically a matter of time before certain characters, and just start, we're gonna kill everybody, and so
But the only person, the only people who can, fight fire with fire, basically. So
literally.
Yeah,
literally.
She's a pyromancer. Yes, but really cool show. Just interesting because it is just much more of a. It is the most seinen of seinen shows, right? Because it's very much made for adults. There's nothing flashy. In fact, Robin wears a neck to ankle dress. There's
Victorian,
very
Victorian.
There's nothing. There's nothing revealing. It's very much people in just normal street clothes kind of stuff. So very interesting, and
glasses.
I thoroughly enjoyed it. Yeah. Oh yeah, those glasses.
The glasses play a big role in the first part of the anime.
Because if you have fire, you have anyway. But yeah. Yes, that's a thing. I really enjoyed it. Be aware the ending is. It is definitely an ending. Like they have a big climax, but
it ends.
It ends. The pieces are kind of confusing.
It stops being on.
Yeah, they throw a lot of things into the ending, where you're like, but I'm not sure if that ties up that plot line, or if I understand what happened there. I will call it a confusing ending. Not a bad ending, just like, okay, but I'm not quite sure all about it.
Is it an ending in anticipation of a sequel, or is it...
No.
No.
Oh.
No, but it is also not an ending of...
Nobody's clapping for Shinji?
Nobody's clapping for Shinji for finally getting whatever the hell he was supposed to get.
Finally get out of the insane asylum.
Kicked in the head.
Yeah. It also has all CGI backgrounds for a lot of the rooms, which takes some getting used to.
Yeah.
They CGI rendered all of the rooms, and then we just use those as backgrounds, and it works okay. But there's sometimes when it's like, oh, that's a CGI background.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Remember, this was back in 2001,
maybe.
Yeah.
Something like that.
It was early on.
Yeah, 3, 4. Yeah. So it was.
Yeah.
Okay.
But yeah, I am glad I watched it. Put it that way.
It was on Adult Swim for a while.
Ah.
Yeah.
All right.
Then again, Lane was on Tech TV, so whoever knows. Cool. No history this week. There were no notable things I saw of this. 2000 was a weird time for animation, Captain Laser Eyes.
Yeah.
As a note, I announced last Sunday that in about a month from now, we will be holding OnCon 3. So we've got another online anime convention coming up on March 19th and 20th. So Friday and Saturday, we're going to be doing that here on this channel. We'll have panels, we'll have giveaways, we'll have videos, multiple videos hopefully running simultaneously on SciTube. We'll be analyzing Spriggan. That's a movie.
Wait.
Yeah. Don't know how long we'll be analyzing Spriggan, but we'll be talking about it.
Long enough that we'll be watching cat videos for quite a while.
I need something cute.
Spriggan might be one of the most shonen of shonen movies now that I think about it. But anyway, so look forward to that. In about a month, we'll be doing that. Also, FYI, next week we'll be doing something a little bit differently. We're going to have a sort of we're going to have a reduced group next week. It'll be just Steve and myself, and instead of analyzing a movie, we're going to be doing sort of a Q&A. So we'll be taking your questions from the audience and discussing them. So please hop on the Discord if you haven't already and post some questions in the general channel. And we will be answering some of those questions and answering any questions you have live and talking about anime in general. So that'll be the plan next week. And then the week after, we'll be analyzing Jinro the Wolf Brigade.
Because that's an anime full of sunshine and happiness.
Exactly. Yes, that is.
Actually, it's one of my favorites, but yeah, it's very, very upbeat.
Yeah,
sunshine and happiness. It's like rainbows being farted out by unicorns all day long. Oh, good God.
Yeah.
Ain't nothing saccharine about this.
If you're curious about actual Japanese history, there's some interesting parallels in Jinro.
Yes.
By the way.
Yeah.
We'll be talking about that as well. That'll be coming up in 2 weeks is the plan. Cool. I think that's all I've got. So I've got a question for you all. What did we
learn on the show tonight, Brand?
Perfect as always.
For the Tone Deaf Choir.
Going on the road, going on tour.
We're going to have our next concert starting at the Budokan. We'll see you there. There you go. The Tone Deaf Trio presents the greatest hits of Dean Martin.
We're going to do Cruel Angel's Thesis.
All of the Japanese we learned in the last 20 minutes in the back of the bus.
We're going to do an acapella of Tank.
Awesome.
It took me a lot of years to realize how often Dean Martin performed drunk.
Most of the time,
yeah,
apparently.
Turns out, you have that image in your head as a kid, that people on the television are professionals, right? And
they can be drunk professionals.
Yeah. They would never perform drunk. Like, you wouldn't do that.
Oh goodness! How many like hardcore rock bands have performed?
What did I say about Motley Crue?
Yeah, and,
whiskey,
completely altered. One would argue that there is some creative process that occurs as a result of that alteration, but I wouldn't recommend it.
I learned that we are not the only lovers of Keep Your Hands Off Azoken.
Yeah.
Which I'm very glad to see.
Yay.
I've learned that Netflix is getting its tendrils even deeper into the anime industry and just locking on to more animators and pulling them in. I don't think it's that bad of a thing. But I do think it's funny that Netflix is being like, how do we solve this problem? Throw money at it. Shocker there.
It's good news for animators.
It's good news for animators, absolutely.
Throw more money.
Mm-hmm. I also learned that there are even more layers to Tenchi Forever than I thought. For a film that I enjoy so much, there's quite a bit of little subtlety in there, which is pretty cool.
Yeah.
How about you guys?
Talked about it longer than the film.
Yeah.
I learned that Funimation apparently is behind the curve, but not surprisingly on ADA compliance. Something that I had not ever honestly thought. I don't know whether I thought about it or just assumed that everything that was on the soil here was all ADA compliant. But it's like, no, it's not. And I've also learned that I have so much more Tenchi universe that I have to get my head around to make more sense of this, because I enjoy Tenchi. I mean, I enjoy harems. Harems are fun.
Yeah,
for me. And I guess having a little more than just stupid harem, having a little more depth to harem makes it all the better. So
exactly.
Yeah. I've learned that I need to get a rice cooker. Because that dish, John, that sounds just amazing.
Yeah,
and I kind of wants it right now. So definitely a rice cooker is in the works. I've learned that thankfully Mugen Train doesn't, well, not yet, control everything. And I still have time to make my pachinko parlor for Mugen Train.
Yeah, absolutely. Mm-hmm.
And of course next year, well, of course next year we know it's going to be all Mugen Train all the time. And pretty soon, all that the world will be able to speak it are the actual lines from Mugen Train.
Yep.
I've learned that that my love for Tenchi stuff is still alive and vibrant, and enjoying movies like that is nice. Coming back to things like that is nice. Let's see what I've also learned that I'm glad to know that the theater industry isn't the only thing behind an ADA compliance, and that my crusade for making sure people can enjoy the wonders of things out there, particularly anime, You don't need to have hearing to see it, and you don't need to have sight to hear it. So it's good that the lawsuit came out. I think it'll all be good, and it sends a message, and it'll be nice, and just it's a thing everyone should enjoy. Yeah. And the last thing that I learned was that Tenchi After Dark is a new show on Skinamax. The worst of anime softcore porn is not even hentai, but it'll go there, so that you can see Tenchi for the first time, feel the tingle from the tatami mats of passion. Tenchi Moyo After Dark.
Bye all.
And done.